Христа величащий, Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Вашей жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 608 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And it feels like we just did this yesterday. We're back so soon.
And we are already back. We didn't even have a Monday break. We ran a special stream on the situation in the Middle East yesterday, and we're, of course, going to be covering the past 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and also the past 24 hours of the news in the Middle East, considering that we covered a lot of that of yesterday's news yesterday. We also have been making some fundamental changes today to how this channel runs to accommodate the brand new news segment that does appear it will not be disappearing anytime soon. We have actually made an entirely separate map, completely distinct from the Ukraine war map, so now the news in the Middle East will be on a completely separate map than the news in the war in Ukraine, and so you can go into the link in the description below and you can click on the exact map that you want the information from, either Ukraine or the Middle East. We're not going to be calling this map the Israel war map because we can see that the United States involvement is making this a region-wide affair, and we will be, of course, trying to make sure to accommodate that as much as we possibly can. Before we move on into tonight's news, though, I would like to give a special mention due to some unfortunate news that we've heard inside of the Lee Spring Army. I was having a little bit of a debate as to when we would announce this tonight, either later on in the stream or first thing, and I've actually decided that it would probably be best to share this with y'all first thing tonight. Many of y'all may have been around several days ago when we heard that a old guard of the Lee Spring Army, CME-4PC, which many of y'all have known and has been here since day 4, had entered hospice because his cancer was worsening, and it did appear that things were going quite poorly. During that time, we wished him the best of luck and hoped that he would have a miraculous recovery, although hospice is usually the end of the line as far as things go. We just got news an hour before the stream began that CME-4PC, an old guard of the channel and a member of the Lee Spring Army, has unfortunately passed away in his battle against cancer. It's a very unfortunate thing, and I've decided that I would share that with y'all first thing tonight on stream rather than near the end, because CME-4PC has been with us for an incredibly long time, since the 4th day of this channel, making him a true old guard by the old metric and an old guard by the new metric of being here within the first month. He has been with this channel loyally every single day, along with Jen, who is may be here tonight or may not be here tonight. I have a feeling she's not, and I completely understand. And it's unfortunate to hear that such a massive member of the community has passed away. So, of course, wanted to make sure to mention that to all of y'all tonight and get out the unfortunate news within our community first, and then move on into the news of the war in Ukraine and the Middle East. We will be, of course, covering the news in Ukraine and in the Middle East tonight in our usual upbeat fashion, of course, knowing what is going on in the background of the community, but I want to make sure that everyone keeps a mind and a thought out to all of the amazing folks out there in the Lee Spring Army, like CME4PC, who are no longer with us, including Anthony Bestwick, who has most likely also passed away from cancer as well several months ago, although we never got actual confirmation on that. Moving on from that, and also we're going to be commemorating this stream tonight to CME4PC for being a channel legend. But moving on from that, and on into our first bits of news inside of the war in Ukraine, we have been hearing some pretty impressive stuff tonight about the Ukrainian forces being able to hold on to the Avdiivka front, and once again, Russian forces taking incredibly high casualties. We have seen that over the past 48 hours, Russian forces have been able to move forward, but they are not moving forward in any significant or meaningful way, at least at the moment, although that may be changing here soon. We have seen something, at least as far as this front line has been moving, that could be described as an equivalent to a breakthrough, at least for how these front lines have been moving since the beginning of the Russian offensive in this area. On the 23rd, we saw that Russian forces had been able to push all the way through one field towards the railroad berm. And this was a fairly significant move, considering that Russian forces were only able to take about a quarter of a field at a time. It is, of course, very concerning to see this, but at the same time, over the past 24 hours, we've seen that they've only been able to move, once again, another 50 meters down the road to the south of that quote-unquote breakthrough that we could call it, although it really isn't, and they were able to push all the way onto the railroad berm. Moving on to Google Maps, we can see some pretty interesting land features around this area that makes it an important strategic position, and that is this massive slag heap. The area around Avdiivka, and really the entirety of the Donbass, has been a massive mine for decades at this point, and was really expounded on during the times of the Soviet Union. And this slag heap here is actually a part of the Avdiivka coke plant that you can see right over here. The Avdiivka coke plant, I believe, produces coke for the production of steel, but I don't know exactly sure. I'm not sure if this is very similar to the Mariupol metallurgical facility in Mariupol, but still a very large factory, and this is a slag heap across the road from the factory where they deposit all of the pretty much slag that's a byproduct of their productions. This is a dominating position in the region, and was used by Ukrainian defenders to lay down some withering firepower onto Russian forces that had been advancing from the area of the village of Krasnoarivka. From what we can understand, on this frontline map, it appears that that may have possibly been taken today, or almost is taken. The slag heap is about right here on this map. You can see the small lake right there, and you can also see the one to the southeast right there as well, meaning that the slag heap, according to Deep State UA, is partially controlled by the Russian forces at the moment. And this may be one of the larger advances that the Russians have made, but apparently it did not last that long, as a Ukrainian drone was immediately brought in to attack the flag that had been raised over the slag heap, and then additional reports have said that Ukrainian forces were able to push the Russians back off the slag heap and onto the other side of it, to the northeast. But here's the clip of them taking out the Russian flag. And so, here's the clip. And we can see here the Russian flag flying over a part of the slag heap. We're kind of blending in with the rest of it, you know, of course it being slag. And we can now see the drone coming in to take out the flags. We can see it going for the central part of the flagpole, hitting it, and most likely taking away the unit flag on top, and setting the Russian flag on fire. We can see a smoldering flame right there from the Russian flag, which is now floated away. But with that,
did I see that properly? It was like a big, large stick for the flagpole on that thing.
Yeah, it was just like a tree that they cut down somewhere. They de-limbed it and then put the flags on it. Pretty archaic, you know. While I have a voice crack right there, pretty archaic, pretty lame, but still, I guess the Russians have to make do. You know, this is high-tech stuff inside the Russian Federation at this point. But still, absolutely wonderful to see that they were able to destroy the flags that the Russians planted onto the slag heap, and then we heard later on that they were pushed off of the slag heap, although we don't have any corroborating picture or video evidence to back up that claim. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see a Russian tank destroyed by an ATGM. And so, here's the clip. And we're going to be muting that, but we can see the Russian tank moving through one of the plains around the area of Avdiivka, getting hit by an ATGM, and then going up into a smoldering pile of flames. We can see the gunner bailing out of the tank, Not seeing the commander at the moment, and it appears that the gunner is now wallowing on top of the turret in glee. Now here comes the commander. And then later on in the day, we can see that the tank exploded into a fireball. That's the end of that clip, but once again, another Russian main battle tank lost in the area of Avdiivka. Moving on from that, we also saw that a drone bomber, or more so a... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that video has been declared to be spicy. It was not declared spicy earlier, but now we won't be able to show that on stream for that reason. Moving on from that clip and into the area of Kamyanka, which is a village on the outskirts of Avdiivka, we got to see that a Russian unit was also hit in this area as well by Ukrainian forces.
Ah, this one looks mild, not so spicy.
We can see them running across the open... Oh! And then there were two. Oh my lord, that guy really just disappeared. It was a magic trick. Oh, well,
the Russians are putting some Tabasco in this video.
Man, this thing be spicy, bullet. But anyways, absolutely nice to see the 110th Brigade take out a little soldier, and hopefully that'll be helping them out, at least in that small part of the front line. Meanwhile, on the southern side of Avdiivka, we have seen similar situations as well, as far as the armor is concerned. And today, Matthew, I'm not even going to open this one up to debate. This is the turret toss of the war. This is the best one that we have seen so far. And so, I'm going to show this, Matthew, and I don't mean to be biased, but this truly is the finest, the greatest explosion in turret toss ever seen in the history of this channel. Here's the clip. Also, there's the tank, by the way. And the turret toss was so impressive, you won't see the turret until it's coming back down. But here's the clip. There goes the tank.
Jeez.
And... Poof, and then the turret blows up.
Oh my god, man. That's gonna be choked up.
That is a 10 out of a 10 right there.
I gotta say, I agree with you, man. That was good. Like, the explosion on impact, that was something we've never seen before.
Man, I've got to tell you, I've never seen anything like this before. The height, the absolute trajectory of this thing, it went vertical. It didn't go in like an arc. It went straight up and straight back down, almost right on top of the tank. And the height the height was like 300 meters or 900 feet or so. It was amazing. Let's watch that again. There it goes. There it goes. Okay, to get the force of the explosion, tank tracks have a lot of tension in them, to the point that it actually takes hours to put a track back onto a tank, because you have to pull out special equipment to be able to pull the track together and get enough tension in it that you can throw the pin back into the track links and then put it back onto the tank. The explosion was so strong that it ripped the track right off the side of the tank and sent it flying into the air like one of those little sticky hands you got as a kid that you'd fling at the wall or fling at someone's eye and then blind them. It went and threw it like that. That shows you the raw force of this explosion. And then also, the turret being all the way up there, and it's already coming down at that point, so it was way higher than that a moment ago. That is an impressive turret toss. And also the little sparkles inside of the explosion were also quite impressive as well. The best turret toss of the war. And then the explosion at the end, the finishing touch.
The Russians have the best turret tosses, the best you've seen, unprecedented. Oh my goodness, it's the best. Oh, I'm telling you,
The
China.
top 1% of Russian tankers own half of the turret toss awards. We need equal turret toss award distribution across this country.
But moving on from that, absolutely incredible to see that this, I mean, look, I've already explained this enough. Y'all know it's an impressive turret toss. Do I need to even go on any further than that? But moving on from that little bit of news and on into our next bit near Vdanie, we also got to see another failed attack in the area today around Avdiivka. Here is the clip. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this is actually a video made by the Russians. So, with that in mind, here you go. We can see the BTR-80 firing off its 30mm gun. We hear the radio getting juicy. We can see an explosion in the distance.
I like those big old chunk shells like just flying around everywhere like broken dishes.
Man, I gotta tell you, I do like to see it, man. They also sound like broken dishes as well. They go click when they hit something. Also, by the way, look at the
That's the sound of money.
Look at the giant convoy that's in front of this BTR. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 vehicles that I can kind of count. All in a straight line. Oh, and there went one of them. Just got hit by an HEGM. We see the BTR continuing to fire as the convoy almost suicidally continues to advance. And that's the end of the clip, but just bizarre to watch a convoy advancing like that, seeing one of their lead vehicles get hit, and then they continue to advance through the open field, knowing that it's already becoming a turkey shoot. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but there you have it. That's the actual Russian perspective of a failed attack on Avdiivka, like we saw in this clip. It's showing us what they see, and probably, a lot of what they're thinking too. Moving on from that, that is all of the clips that we got from the Avdiivka offensive today, but that's not all of the information and data that we were able to gather from this part of the front lines. The casualty report was unbelievable today, and it's of course not the highest one we've seen. It's not record-breaking, but it still is incredibly high in every single category on the loss count.
Hey, let's go! They got 8 Bobcats, man. It sent us over 1,000. I'm telling you.
Eagle! And finally, the Bobcat skid steer losses have passed 1,000. 8 special equipment vehicles were destroyed today, leading to the losses being 1,006. Absolutely wonderful to see. And
hey, man, it's time for some drinks, man. I'm going to go get some water.
Man, I got that drink in my cup. Are you serious?
Oh, no, I'm just joking. I was saying, okay, here's the joke. It was alcohol. We're going to have some drinks, right? But it's not really alcohol. It's just water.
I don't get that joke. I don't get that at all. Like you explained that, and I'm still not getting it. Man, dude, man, I'm telling you what. I have no idea. Anyways, moving on from that, because that joke fell flat in my head. I don't know why. But moving on from that, the losses in every other category were incredibly high today. 810 Russian soldiers knocked out, along with 16 armored personnel carriers, 28 supply trucks, 12 Russian main battle tanks, 24 artillery pieces, 18 drones, a whopping 3 MLRSs, 1 cruise missile, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and of course the 8 special equipment vehicles. Overall, the losses were whopping today, and most of them, once again, are coming from the area around the Avdiivka offensive right now, showing that once again, for the amount of ground gained by the Russians, their offensive is culminating to be an abysmal failure, just by the losses alone. Moving on from that bit of news and the casualty report, we also got to see something very interesting today, a video that supposedly came from Rostov-on-Don, showing a quote-unquote Ukrainian missile flying on its way to a target. We've never seen the Ukrainians fire a missile this far inland in broad daylight, but here's the clip. It didn't make any noise either, and I don't know what this picture is at the end of the clip, but it didn't make any noise. It had a giant streak of flame behind it. I don't know what that is, but apparently it was flying over Rostov-on-Don today, and some people took it for a Ukrainian missile, although we really don't know what that was, but I thought I would show it to y'all really quickly. Moving on from that, and on into the rest of our location unknowns, there are some pretty interesting ones in here today. For example, some pictures of the Finnish-made Sisu XA180 APCs. These things are pretty cool. They're kind of like a VAB, but a lot longer. Instead of having 4 wheels, they have 6 wheels, and they can carry a lot more infantry inside of them. Some of them also have these really cool turrets. I don't know if they were made by the Ukrainians or equipped by the Finns, but it gives it a little extra oomph and firepower when going up to the front lines, on top of an already pretty unique looking armored personnel carrier, and hopefully that'll be helping it on out. Moving on from that and into the next bit of location unknown news, we also got to see that a surveillance tower was destroyed by a Ukrainian drone as well. I don't know if that's music, but we're just going to mute that to be on the safe side. We can see the drone flying on into the Muron M surveillance tower. A fairly sizable surveillance tower. Looks a lot like a candy cane. And this little drone's about to go up to it and treat it like a candy cane. There's the little surveillance system right there. And now our little drone is going to go flying face first into it. Oh, I'm sorry, actually. That's the little surveillance system. Whoops, it's not the giant dish. It's that thing. And we can see it hit, and that's the end of that little camera, and probably the end of the Russians' eyesight in the area. Next thing you know, Matthew, the Russians are going to be going, I can't see! I can't see! But moving on from that, great to see that they were able to take out a mroe surveillance tower, and in our next clip, we have seen one of the most interesting perspectives of an air-to-air missile being fired. This is a video clip of an Su-27, a Ukrainian one, firing a air-to-air missile at a Russian drone, and I have never seen footage that showed the launch of an air-to-air missile this well. Here's the clip. There's the Su-27. It's fired off its missile right there. There it goes. The Su-27 takes a left bank. We hear the sound of the engine. We hear the boom of the missile flying overhead. We see the Su-27 flying on out. The quality of this footage is surreal. It's almost like an IMAX film. Watch this again. That is impressive.
That's crazy that the missile got up to like the speed of sound that quickly.
Oh yeah, dude, those things go flying. And from what we can tell, based off of the aircraft tilting over to conduct a left bank, it appears that it was carrying R-73s, which are all aspect shorter range missiles. I believe they're called, I'm trying to think, there's Fox 1s, Fox 2s, and Fox 3s. The Fox 1s are the semi-active radar ones. I think that's a Fox 2 or something like that. I don't know. Y'all can clarify that in the live chat if you want. But watch. You can actually see the missile right there. And look at it. It actually starts to turn. You can visibly see it start turning in flight to intercept the drone. So let me show this again. It's just a very interesting video to watch. We don't get this kind of quality ever. That is just something.
It's really deceiving, like how large those jets are too. Like seeing them on the ground, you would think, like right off the bat, that they're really not that large, but those things are massive, like those SU jets are.
Oh, dude, they're huge. I think the Su-27 in length is about the same size as a B-17 Flying Fortress from World War II. So, just to put that into perspective, the Su-27s, as well as the F-15s, are massive. They're largely in the same size category as far as the fighter aircraft go. Moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see a Ukrainian soldier. We didn't get to see the tank he destroyed, but we did get to see him really happy after a successful javelin hit, and his fervor is contagious. Here's the clip. That man was
crazy.
Man, that man was crazy, man. He so let's watch that again.
I guess he hit the target.
I think he did. I think he did. But I love to see the enthusiasm and the excitement of these guys. Of course, it always brings us a great deal of joy to see that they love doing their job. And of course, through them doing their job, they get to defend their country. So it's a win-win for everyone. But moving on from that little bit of news and on into our next bits of news, which actually is in the location unknowns, we also got some additional pictures today from the post office sorting station that was destroyed in Kharkiv that the Russians, of course, claimed were hiding IFVs, or Ukrainian Armored Personnel Carriers. Now, you see the pictures of the destroyed facility here. We can see all of the parcels that were inside of the trucks and everything that's been destroyed inside. Of course, not a single infantry fighting vehicle or an armored personnel carrier inside of this compound. This was once again a merciless attack by the Russians on civilian targets inside of Ukraine, most likely to just try and conduct terrorism against them. It is unfortunate to see, and hopefully the Ukrainians can eventually hold the people who conducted these attacks accountable. But moving on from the city of Kharkiv and on into the rest of our Ukraine war news, because y'all might actually be surprised in this. We actually have an entirely separate segment, and I don't know if I explained this well enough at the beginning of the stream, because some people have been complaining in our chat that they want the Ukraine war news only. So what I've done tonight is I've actually made sure that we're going to have a clear divide in between the Ukraine war news and the Middle East news. So that way people, kind of get to know what we're going into. So that way if people complain, we know they're just complaining to complain, and then, they end up not being around anymore. They end up getting banned. So I'm trying to make that as clear as possible so that way we can divide the people who may not have really known that we were running Middle Eastern news or Israeli news, and then the people who just complain to complain. So that's largely what we're doing. Hopefully it's a nice little transition as well, because I put some work into this tonight. I was slaving away on this thing. But moving on from that, and on up into the northeastern front, over the past 48 hours, we haven't really seen a lot of frontline movement in this area. And let's see, here's the 22nd, here's the 23rd, here's the 24th. And as you can see, there was no movement in this area of the front line. We did see, however, a large Ukrainian column preparing to move forward somewhere in this northern area. Of course, the same song we've heard for a million times playing over the video. We can see the BMPs all sitting on the road and also going off-road. And we can see them looking around again and just showing us the BMP column. And it appears that this little column is going to be getting into some action here soon, just based off of how they're appearing to be awaiting further orders. They may be moving into the area of the northeastern front to conduct some defensive actions in the area. Moving on from the entire northeastern front, because that's all the news we had in that area today, we're now going to be moving on down into the direction of Bakhmut, where we got to see that a drone operator still hit the tank, although he had a little bit of a comeuppance or a hiccup. The drone that was, flying towards this tank had an incendiary grenade on it, and the incendiary grenade went off while it was still on the drone, and he had to fly the burning drone onto the tank. Quite a feat. We've never seen this before. We've never seen this kind of a mess up, but still, he still managed to stick the landing onto the tank. When you see the drone is on fire, he flies it onto the tank, and then it just sits on top of it, and it then burns. Of course, the drone's supposed to usually drop the incendiary grenade into the tank, but that's not going to happen here at all. When you see the fire consuming the drone, and we can now see this from a third-person perspective. When you see the drone up there, kind of flying around, and we can see the incendiary grenade go off, so now it's just a burning fireball, and now they're going to fly it right back into the tank. That was one hell of a trick right there. Well, you see the tank now burning, and it appears that the fire is beginning to spread around the tank. It looks like it's actually reached the barrel of the gun, which is very interesting.
Looks like there's a side fire too, like over there on the right. Like something's over there, like twitching around on fire.
Yeah, just a little bit, a little bit of something on the ground, nothing that big. But it is something nice. It's nice to have a little warm fire going while your tank burns to the ground. And it looks like that fire is just crisping the outside of the tank right now, searing it and getting it ready for the roast. That's the end of the clip, but still, a very weird little drone mess up to have there, one we've never seen before. Moving on from that and into our Bakhmut frontline analysis, over the past 48 hours, we have seen that Russian forces have appeared to move forward a little bit in the area of Bakhmut. It doesn't appear to be a part of a larger action or a major offensive, but it does appear that they were able to secure the forest just on the ridgeline near the northwestern side of Bakhmut, and they were also able to move forward an incredibly small amount out here in the field right outside of Bakhmut. We don't really know if this is Deep State UA just adjusting the map a little bit in this area, or if the Russians are moving forward a small amount, but we did see one picture from the area showing that nobody's really going to be doing anything around here for a while. This is a Turkish armored car that got stuck in the mud or more so the Rasputitsa, and a crater near the area of Bakhmut. We're going to see this guy kind of kidding around. Obviously, he's not pulling that thing out of the crater, but you can see that the conditions of the road are getting horrendous in this area from the Rasputitsa. This is probably going to bring all actions by both sides to an end, at least for the next month and a half around the Battle of Bakhmut. So, an interesting thing to note, and once again, keep in mind, we probably won't be seeing much going on from either side around Bakhmut because of those weather conditions. Moving on from Ivanivsky, and where that picture may have been taken, of course the marker isn't exactly accurate, we're now going to be moving on down from the Bakhmut area and on into the southern front, which has been exceptionally quiet today. Quiet to a degree, I don't even really know how to explain it that well. But in the area around the village chain, we did see that the 56th Brigade was firing at the Russians with an S-60 57mm anti-aircraft gun mounted onto a truck. And so here's the clip. We're going to mute that.
Man, that sounds like that Home Depot music.
Here at the Home Depot, you can get yourself an S-60 57mm anti-aircraft gun. Make your neighbors quiver in fear as you level the Russians from about 1.5 miles away.
Oh, dude, they had a little bit of hot ammo right there, man. They have Bubba's hot load in that S-60. Look at this thing.
Whoa.
Look at this. Oh,
Oh, man. You know,
Man.
I got a little burny, a little spicy real quick.
They took a pause in firing for just a quick second to be like, oh. And now we can see it firing at night. By the way, y'all, if y'all are, really quickly, if y'all are epileptic, y'all might want to look away from the stream because this is a lot of bright flashing right now. It's kind of messing with me a little bit, although I'm not epileptic. So if you are, make sure to look away for a little bit. I'll tell you when it's good to look back. But we can see them continuing to fire the gun. And we can see it mounted onto the back of a Hamas. That's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. That kind of looks like a Gush gun. Can't really tell. Okay, yeah, we wouldn't be able to tell anyways. We can't unmute that. Man, these guys are just whipping out the anti-aircraft guns, just using them as anti-infantry guns. A really good way to use them, though. Anti-aircraft guns usually are incredibly efficient at being an anti-infantry gun. Just imagine the kind of firepower needed to shoot down a plane being directed at a squad of infantry about 500 yards away. It's incredibly devastating to infantry. It's incredibly devastating to planes. And we can see that the Ukrainians are starting to try and use these older anti-aircraft pieces that really don't have a use anymore as AA guns, as anti-infantry guns.
Also, you epileptic people can look back.
I think y'all can. I think it's safe now.
Epileptic, not epileptic, or whatever the hell I just
Dude,
said.
it's the hardest word to say, man. I have a feeling that, like, they made that to screw with people because that word is so freaking difficult. I can never say it right. Epileptic. Like, I'm saying it right now, but it's taking all my mental power to do it. But that's the end of the clip. Also,
Hey, look, is that kid smoking a joint again?
man, he got that doobie. Man, he got that roach. But also, look at this. They're just towing them all away with tow bars, all in one big group. Interesting. So I'm guessing that this is kind of like an anti-infantry gun battery or something that they have. Very interesting. Very unique, actually. Never seen that before. But moving on from that clip, that's all we got from the village chain today. And moving on down towards Rabotne, we really got nothing from Rabotne today. I don't think we saw any frontline changes in this area, nor any video evidence either, that would be indicating larger frontline actions. And so over the past 48 hours, we've seen nothing happen in Rabotne. It appears that the front line is completely stabilized in this area, but apparently the Ukrainians were able to capture a prisoner in this area somehow, someway today, and it appears that this prisoner was Nepalese. In case if some of y'all are wondering, what is Nepalese? Nepalese people are from Nepal. And really quickly, the reason why I'm explaining this is not because I think people are dumb or anything. It's just that for some reason I had a hard time computing who Nepalese people were today before the stream. It took me like 2 minutes to finally remember, oh yeah, they're people from Nepal. And so a Nepalese citizen is from Nepal. You can actually see Nepal right here in the Himalayas. And apparently this guy is from Nepal. We don't really know how he ended up in the Russian army. It may have been one of those forced conscription kind of ordeals where the Russians just gather up foreign workers and then send them into the army. But still, pretty interesting to note the just absolute really, I'm trying to find the best way to explain it. The isolation of Nepal. Not really a lot of Nepalese people leave Nepal often. Very few times do you see Gurkhas in the United Kingdom, which are Nepalese volunteers in the British Army. And beyond that, Nepalese people don't really travel outside of Nepal a lot. And so it's very interesting to see that one of them was captured in Ukraine today. And I have a feeling he was probably an unfortunate worker that was forced into the Russian army. So he's probably very lucky to have surrendered and been taken in by the Ukrainians as a prisoner of war. And also, Brett said he volunteered.
Яка сьогодні дата хоч?
Дата.
Сьогодні субота вже.
Дата. Перша 10 ночі, 14 жовтня. Затриманий.
Фамілія?
Бібека 3.
Бібека 3?
Да, Непальцы.
Откуда ти?
Непал. Непал?
Ти що тут забув?
Вниз смотреть,
Непал
сука,
это
не
я.
поворачиваться.
Що тут
No,
забув?
you see them put the hand of truth on top of his Kanagin to try and get more information out of him. But with that, that's the end of the clip. It's fairly interesting to see that there was a Gurkha, well, I'm sorry, not a Gurkha, a Nepalese citizen in the Russian army. Also, someone just asked why, the reason why I said Gurkha. Someone asked, are Gurkhas not from Nepal? No, they are from Nepal. They are actually volunteers from the nation of Nepal that join the British army and therefore serve in the Gurkha unit. The Gurkhas are made entirely of Nepalese citizens from Nepal, and through their service, they are given British citizenship, which is highly sought after inside of Nepal, and so there is a never-ending supply of volunteers that are trying to join the Gurkhas in the United Kingdom. And also, they are a very famous unit. If you all know anything about their military history in the British Army, they are an impressive and well-distinguished unit amongst the British forces. But moving on from that, that's all of the news we got today from the area around Robotny. And moving on from there and down towards the area of Kazachi-Lahari, we saw a Russian unit get hit by a Ukrainian cluster bomb. And it appears that the Ukrainians are starting to use cluster bombs as a front-wide kind of munition, instead of using them exclusively in the southern front.
In 2077, what makes someone a criminal?
If you all know, you know. But we can see the cluster bombs coming on down, peppering the
I
area.
remember back when these first arrived and everybody was all hyped up that the Ukrainians finally got them. And now they're using them so widespread that we see like so many videos of them actually being deployed on the field that it's becoming a little bit routine.
Yeah, it's almost like every weapon system. You know, the HIMARS was really something when it arrived, and then it just turned into nothing because it gets used so much. But it is great to see that these things are being used to incredible effect and appear to be very good against infantry, although we've seen them kind of suffer performance-wise against armored vehicles, contrary to what the advertising says. But moving on from that, nice to see that they're using some cluster bombs on Russian forces on the southern bank of the Dnipro River, and moving on down to Sevastopol, we got some interesting satellite pictures showing us the conditions of the port right now, as Zelensky pledges that more attacks will continue against the forces in Crimea, and specifically the forces remaining within the city of Sevastopol. These satellite pictures show us that there are still a decent amount of Russian ships inside of Sevastopol that are not able to be transported to either the Sea of Azov or to the area around Novorossiysk. In this one picture here, we can see two Rapucha-class landing ships right up here, and a Nadia-class right in between them. That's something similar to a corvette, a very, very small ship. We can also see an Alligator-class supply ship right there. We can also see the Vishnia-class, which is the best way I think I can explain it, some kind of like a research vessel. We can also see the Yuri Ivanov-class right here, and the Ivan Kurz as well, sitting right here. These are similar to, if I'm trying to give them a Western equivalent, although these things are not equivalent to this class of ship, kind of similar to the Oliver Hazard Perry class in the U.S. Navy, or the Arleigh Burke. That's probably the best way to explain it. The rest of these are civilian ships, and then there's an Amur class support ship down here. Most of the ships, however, at this mooring appear to not be combat vessels. They appear to be support vessels that the Russians could possibly lose, because there's really nothing that these ships require to support. The Russian Navy is operating directly out of its home ports at the moment, and so supply ships like these aren't needed for long-distance naval operations, because those operations simply don't exist. We can also see that the submarine pin is now completely empty. There's no submarines inside of the submarine pin. There are about 4 of them actually 3 of them, I believe, or 4 of them, that are still operational. The number has kind of been hopping in between 3 and 4 recently, but all of them have been moved to Novorossiysk, and we can see that they're at the submarine pins there. Moving on from that, we also saw that the Spartan weapons runner is also inside of a dry dock, or a kind of like a temporary dry dock. We can see that right there. We can also see that the remains of the Rapucha and Kilo class are still inside of the dry docks on the southern end of the port, meaning that those are completely unusable until those dry docks are cleared out, which it appears that it's actually not happening at all, because it doesn't even look like they've begun to cut up these ships where they lie. We also saw another Rapucha class ship at another part of the pier. This one was at the ammo pier specifically. And then finally we saw the Bora class, the other Bora class that wasn't damaged, which is that like catamaran high-speed ship, like what's the best way? Surface combat vessel, way inside of the Sevastopol Bay in a very small inlet. And so, with that, I hope that kind of addresses some of the fleet layout inside the port of Sevastopol. And also, really quickly, to get you all a geolocation for this one, this little satellite picture right there was taken around this dry dock that you see right here. In this satellite picture, there was a cruise ship that was inside of this dry dock, but at the moment, from the satellite pictures taken today, it does appear that that cruise ship, actually it appears that there is some kind of a commercial tanker vessel, or an aggregate storage vessel that's now there. Apparently it's the Matros Poznich, and we can also see other commercial vessels surrounding the dry dock as well. One Bora class, the other Bora class, is sitting outside the dry dock. That was the one that was damaged. It may be awaiting repairs, or it may just be sitting out the rest of the war. We also saw that the Alexandra class was inside of the further out part of that area of the dock. And then we saw one Grisha class right there, and two of the Kriviks here as well. So this is probably the highest concentration of actual surface vessels that we can see that can actually fight anywhere in the Black Sea in a single part of Sevastopol, and it's showing that the surface combat vessels and also the submarines of the Black Sea Fleet have been moved out of Sevastopol for the most part and into relative safety at the moment in the Sea of Azov and Novorossiysk, showing that the Russians have been heavily impacted by the Ukrainian attacks on Crimea, which Zelensky says will continue on here in the near future, with renewed attacks happening within the next few weeks. With that, we're now going to be taking a quick moment to see what all of y'all have been saying about what's been happening inside Sevastopol and Avdiivka, as well as the overall situation in the world, because a lot of y'all have been talking about it. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and moving into our first poll segment, we have some really good polls to cover. And the first one says the U.S. confirms 24 soldiers were injured during attacks in the Middle East. And the question is a response required? While I sit here and choke, excuse me. 83% said yes, a U.S. response is required. 6% said unsure. So another 6% said not really, but maybe. And 5% said no, it happens from time to time. Oh my gosh. Man, I had a mint just a second ago to try to clear this up, and it hasn't helped any, so bear with me. But on this one, I would say that a U.S. response is required if 24 of our guys have been injured, and we don't know the severity of these injuries. The U.S. should not sit back and sit by while that happens and allow our guys to get injured with no repercussions whatsoever. What does that say about the strongest military in the world if we aren't willing to protect our guys overseas? Historically speaking, I don't think we've let stuff like that go, but maybe we're entering a new era where we do let it go. I don't know. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that the situation in the Middle East is exactly what we were saying. And of course, some people take this a bad way when we say told you so, but some people who are around right now have been saying, and were very adamant over the past few days, that nobody has been injured. One guy died of a heart attack, and that's completely separate from the actual attacks. Nothing was a big deal in the Middle East, and there's no reason to try and get involved down there or to react to what Iran's doing, because, hey, no one was even hurt, right? So, no reason to go respond. And now today, like we knew was going to happen, the U.S. Department of Defense has come out, and after the situation has been handled, now they're saying that there are 20 casualties at Entente. And when I say casualties, I mean injured, not dead. We have not heard of confirmed dead at Entente yet, but we have heard of 20 or so injured U.S. service members at that base alone. And we do not know the severity of their injuries either. We don't know if they are cuts and bruises. We don't know if it's life-threatening injuries and they've been evacuated from the area to a hospital somewhere else, like, for example, Saudi Arabia. We have absolutely no idea at the moment. And
Now,
going
I will
off
say
of that,
this, that on that point you just said there, I see some folks saying that a decent portion of the 24 have returned to work or service, and that does appear to be the case, but we don't know exactly if all of them have, and we don't know what the injuries were to begin with. It could have been a scrape, it could have been a cut, or it could have been something more serious.
and also, once again, we don't know the severity, and the ones who haven't returned back to work, who's to say, because of course the Department of Defense is being cryptic at the moment, who's to say that those guys aren't in life-threatening injuries and currently sitting inside of a hospital in an emergency operation room? We don't know. We have no idea. And going off of that, and hearing this news confirmed today, I think this is more wood onto the fire that there must be an official U.S. response in the region to these unprovoked attacks by Iran against U.S. bases in the area. We are currently inside of Syria at the request of the Syrian Democratic Forces, a faction inside the Syrian civil war, and we are also inside of Iraq, like at the Victory Air Base and in the Al-Assad Air Base, on the request of the Iraqi government for peacekeeping and stability operations. And some people have also been saying in the chat, oh, why in the world is the U.S. there? We're the occupiers. No, we're not, because Iraq actually requested U.S. presence in their country as a response to ISIS and our help in destroying ISIS forces inside of Iraq. And because of that, U.S. forces have remained in the area, of course, welcomed by the Iraqis, because the U.S. forces are, of course, helping them in their fight against the ongoing terrorism that's still occurring inside of Iraq, although on a much smaller scale than it was back in the later part of the 2010s. This is something that does require a response, however. There are American service members who have been injured by terrorist groups supported by Iran. These terrorist groups are just like Hezbollah and Hamas in their aim and their goal. They are hell-bent on destroying the Western world, not Israel, because once again, this is a Russia situation. While it's currently Israel that is under the barrel of the gun, it is the Western world as a whole. Iran makes it quite clear, if they are able to destroy the United States or have us descend into chaos, that is their end goal of merely existing. That is their end goal. And so, going off of that, there has to be a U.S. response because of the injured service members. Even if they all have, or most of them have returned to service, the fact that any American service members were injured by an attack officially conducted by Iran is enough to have a response of some sort. And so with that, I hope that
And
does...
I don't understand why we're so scared to strike the terrorists, because we've done it a while back before we left Afghanistan. We were striking terrorists left and right all over the place with drone strikes and didn't think a thing about it. But now all of a sudden we're hesitant to do anything to anyone for some unknown reason while our troops are getting injured. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think we're kind of walking on eggshells right now because of what's happening in Israel. And of course, if we start to respond harshly like we have in the past when nothing was really going on with Israel, that may start to put Israel in a very tough situation. And on top of that, we do know that the Israeli attack, the Israeli ground offensive, still hasn't happened today because they are currently awaiting the arrival of more U.S. forces before they begin their ground offensive. And I have a feeling that's also why U.S. forces at the moment are kind of tiptoeing around in the region and not really doing a lot to respond, is because they are waiting for the American forces in the area to be stronger and larger than they are right now, so that way when they respond, they are entirely ready with manpower reserves to back them up. I think that may be why we're kind of, walking on eggshells right now. There's probably a good strategic reason for it. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And of course, I see a lot of people saying, oh, America's scared because of this and that. Nah, I wouldn't say so, because a lot of people said that America was just going to tuck tail and not even do anything about Israel. But we currently see that there is a 3-star general from the U.S. Marines that is inside of Israel right now helping out the Israeli ground forces. And we're also starting to move massive amounts of equipment into the region as well. We'll actually be covering that here in a minute, but still, I think this requires a U.S. response. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I saw someone say in the live chat, they said anyone that's against a massive de-escalation on all fronts is a warmongering moron. You want to fight, you go. But here's the catch, though. The terrorists do not want to negotiate. They don't want to talk. And, even if the U.S. was open to it, they're not really going to back down at this point. They are determined to go into Israel and cause chaos and try to take that land over. They're essentially like the Russians. There's no, real plan that they would agree to or deal for them to back off. So that there's no de-escalation really possible here. And also, we have to draw a line somewhere. We can't just keep getting, beat up by the bullies over and over and over. Eventually, we have to say that's enough and go in and teach them a lesson. And surely this individual that said that has a line as well. But, I would say if this isn't the line right now, what they're doing, then where is the line?
And I would agree with that entirely. If we don't draw lines as far as the U.S.'s strategic concerns go around the world, what do we really have? We have nothing if we're not willing to stand up for it and defend it. Israel is an ally of ours, has been for decades, as well as many other countries in the region, and it would make no sense to not back them up in a conflict. Also, by the way, some people were saying that it was stupid to put U.S. forces in Saudi Arabia. We'll also be getting into that a little bit later tonight because there's been some interesting developments and news about that. But of course, that is for here in a moment. But with that, I hope we addressed that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll question says, while it pulls up here, it says, do you view Hamas and Hezbollah as Palestinian and Iranian proxies, or are they unrelated groups? 84% said they are proxies of those states. 7% said they are unrelated groups. 6% said unsure, and 3% said I will remain neutral. And this was something we discussed at length last night. And I was of the position that these groups are essentially extensions of Iran and Palestine. And to me, it's very clear what they're doing. They're trying to create plausible deniability so that way Iran and Palestine can say that they're not actually going in and committing terrorist acts. It's these other people that, really aren't us, which is kind of the same thing that Russia's been doing as well. It's not anything new. It's a pretty stereotypical strategy here going on that these thugs like to use against people. And we see these two groups doing the exact same thing. So when you see folks going around arguing, Hamas and Hezbollah are on their own and stuff like that, they fail to mention that they're receiving funding from these larger states, and they're not operating in a vacuum. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would say the same exact thing. Hezbollah and Hamas are operating as extensions of Iran as well as Palestine, and that's quite clear at this point. A lot of people are trying to divide Hamas specifically from anyone, including Palestine and Iran. They're trying to act like they are entirely a separate entity that just exists there for no reason, rather than they're just a force. And that is absolutely asinine. That's like saying the Wagner unit was not a part of the Russian side in the Ukraine war because, they're just there. That doesn't make any sense. I can't even, it's such a straightforward concept. I can't even explain why it doesn't make any sense because the Wagner was Russian. Hamas is Iranian. It's also Palestinian as well. And also doing a little bit more research, the last time an election was held was in 2006 in the Gaza Strip. But once again, according to the United Nations, it was a completely fair election that was run, although Fatah was corrupt and trying to skew the election results. Hamas still won 70-something% of the vote inside of the Gaza Strip, meaning that the majority of the voting public voted for them instead of the ruling power in the Gaza Strip at the time, which was Fatah. And that completely goes against the narrative because a lot of people have been saying, well, they only voted for Hamas because Hamas was threatening to kill their families if they didn't vote for them. Well, under that premise, and knowing that Fatah is also a terrorist group as well, but a little bit more of a demure one, then they would have been threatening to kill these people if they didn't vote for Fatah. And nevertheless, they still went and voted en masse for Hamas. So going off of that, we can't divide Hamas from Palestine. Hamas is an extension of Palestine. It's an extension directly of the Gaza Strip as well. There's no way to make that division anymore, especially knowing that they were elected in, and since then, they have operated the Gaza Strip with an iron fist and been a terroristic group, like everyone saw it coming down the pipe. Apparently, the Gazans knew that as well, and they've been pretty happy with their leadership so far. I mean, there's people cheering in the streets for them right now, en masse, with what they're doing. And I've seen some people out there who have been trying to act like, I've seen some people say this. I'm going to just try and put it out there the best way I can. Some people out there are saying, I'm pro-Palestine, and Hamas has nothing to do with Palestine. That is so stupid. That's like saying, I support the United States, but I don't support the U.S. Armed Forces because that's a completely separate entity. That would be about the same line of thinking right there. And these are people who know the actions of Hamas look so bad on the part of Palestine that they have to try and redraw everything and change the rules like kids at a playground to try and make the situation look better. And to try and make it look like, hey, y'all, Palestine's still got a point. It's just that Hamas isn't even affiliated with them, and they're just conducting terrorist actions, trying to expand the territory of Palestine for no reason at all. You know, they don't want to benefit Palestine or anything. They're just trying to kill off all the Jews, so that way Palestine can get more land, because that's not even connected. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me at all. It just doesn't. And so with that, I hope that addresses that well, in my opinion, also based with a little bit of information that we've gotten about Hamas and Hezbollah, because it makes no sense. And also, I see a lot of y'all getting infuriated about the comments that some people have been making like that, and y'all wouldn't believe it. People are logically trying, well, not logically, they're illogically trying to make that reasoning. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I know I'm saying that for like the third time right now, but it just blows my mind how people can live in like fictitious lands. Like the Israeli Air Force we have seen bombing the Gaza Strip, and we know that some of the buildings they're taking out probably have a decent amount of civilians in them. And I will not sit there and try and pretend like, oh, the Israeli Air Force didn't do that, or, you know, the Israeli Air Force is operating on their own outside of Israel. It has nothing to do with the nation of Israel. No, that's actually the Israeli Air Force. They're bombing buildings that may have civilians in them, and they're taking them out. That's a pretty detestable action. Of course, one that they have to kind of do at this point, because they've been showing proof that Hamas sets up their weapons systems directly near kindergartens, schools, mosques, and so on. So that way the Israelis will hit those areas and will end up killing civilians deliberately. That's something that Hamas is working on constantly to do. But still, it's still a deplorable thing. Civilians are dying. That's something that's completely unacceptable. And I won't sit there and try and sugarcoat that. That is what it is. We still support Israel at the end of the day, but the facts are the facts and the truth is the truth. And so with that,
facts and logic. I mean, it's really good facts. I mean, are you destroying them with facts?
And I'm gonna destroy that with facts and logic. Thanks. But anyways, with that, I hope that addresses that well. And we are on into the next one.
All right, so with that being said, we are fresh out of poll questions, so we are moving on into our Super Chat questions. And up first, we have a very generous $100 donation from Wes Fry, who's a longtime channel viewer, and thank you very much, Wes, for that support. He says, thanks for putting in the extra night. Good times, and take one from the chat.
And thank you so much for enjoying that extra night, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who have made this channel possible for an incredibly long time, Wes Fry, a channel legend as well. And your support is helping us to be able to keep the lights on and keep everything running in the background, so that way we can report news like this the way this channel was kind of supposed to do. Many people have gotten used to us covering Ukraine war news only, but many of y'all may remember that we've always been trying to branch out here and there to try and actually cover more than Ukraine and world news. Of course, I'm completely dedicated to supporting Ukraine, and we're always going to keep the streams running on the war in Ukraine like we did tonight. But at the same time, I always like to have a little bit of variety and depth to our news, so that way, hopefully, we can be y'all's go-to source of news for really anything around the world eventually, hopefully. But still, thank you so much for the mass amount of support, Wes Fry, and keeping this channel running, so that way we can try and make that possible. And we will make sure to take one from the chat. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the one from the chat goes to Mech Death, who says, how do we know if at the moment the USA is not using drones with Iran conducting surveillance and electronic warfare?
Oh, we have no idea. The Department of Defense, unlike the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, is incredibly cryptic and also does not allow a lot of electronic communications from soldiers on the ground that just would give us real-time, up-to-date footage of what's going on over there and what they're doing. So it's entirely possible that we do have drones in the air right now that are conducting some more passive operations, not directly attacking Iranian forces. That is entirely possible, but I can't give you any guarantee it's happening, because, of course, we have no information to show that it is or isn't happening. So it's possible, but we can't say that for certain. And so with that...
Don't we still heavily use the U-2 spy plane to, like, take pictures of stuff?
Yeah, we actually do, from what I was told. It was brought back out of mothballs a while ago, and we started using it again. But I don't know how often that really is.
Because I remember seeing the U-2 taking pictures of the Chinese spy balloon whenever it flew over, like it was literally at the same altitude and everything, taking photos of it. And it's kind of weird because it's such an old plane. But I would imagine if they're trying to get surveillance, which, you know, they probably are, they're probably flying that over there as well.
Probably so. But I don't really know if they would use the U-2 in that kind of a situation, because I do think that Iran has the missiles that can reach the altitude of the U-2. So that could, of course, pose some considerable concern. So I don't know. Maybe we're probably using satellite imagery instead because of the dangers of flying a U-2 over Iran. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for supporting that, for that live chat, Wes Fry, and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Frank, not a drone operator, who is apparently copying Mark. And Frank is not a drone operator, and he throws in a $70 donation. And thank you very much, Frank, for the support. But Frank is an attorney, though, even though he's not a drone operator. He says, I finish up school and pass the bar and become opposing counsel.
And thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Frank, not a drone operator. And also, his exact super chat amount was $69.69. Nice. And I get nice. And I got to thank you so much once again for encouraging us to finish up school, pass the bar, and become opposing counsel. My big thing is to actually try and become a representative of my state. The minimum age for that is 25 years old, and I'd like to see about possibly trying to get into Congress at that point, and then try and shoot for president a little bit later on. Of course, some people are about to go, he has political ambitions, yet he doesn't allow politics to be talked about. Yes, because politics is a cesspit. I'm not getting in it because I like the cesspit. I'm getting in it because I want to actually do some things and get some work done, unlike everyone else. So that's kind of the difference there. So I just want to make that quite clear before everyone starts going, hey, wait a minute, because that's, that's an argument that I'm like, eh. People act like I love politics. I really don't. I just want to get in there and do the things I want done and then leave. And hopefully it ends up benefiting tens of millions of people if possible. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Frank. And maybe we will become opposing counsel, both Matthew and me. Who knows? That's if I can get to actually trying to finish this open memo we got going on right now. Because I'm telling you what, oh man, I'm telling you, it is horrendous to try and get the effort and the strength to be able to do that right now. But with that, thank you so much.
Y'all, we actually did good on the other memo, by the way. I came out making a B, so not too bad. And I think they kind of gave us a break a little bit since it was the first one we did. Thank God, because I was worried sick about it. And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of like mentally exhausted today because I got the grade and I was sitting there like subtly panicking, wondering what I made on it. And then I looked down, I was like, oh, it's a B. I thought it was going to be much worse than this, but it's actually okay.
And I made a C+, which I was really happy with. Because, it's like, I think on the grading scale, that's like a 78 or a 79. So it was almost a B, just about. It was about a point or two off. And on top of that, Matthew and me actually had very low ambitions going into that. We both thought we did terribly. And so making a B- for Matthew and a C+ for me, we were both very happy with that. And I was like, you know what? That's great. Also, because of how busy I was only really able to write that thing for the last 2 days before the assignment was due, unlike everyone else in our class who have been writing it for weeks. And it's looking like it's going to line up to be about the exact same thing for this next memo, too, with the work schedule and everything going on. But it will get done, and I thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Frank, and of course, thank you for the kind, encouraging words as well. And so with that, we are on to the final question of this segment before we switch over into the next bit of news.
All right, and this one goes to Harvey the drummer, who puts in a $51 donation. And thank you very much, Harvey, for that support and being a longtime channel legend as well. He says, as something non-related, I'm a former professional touring musician. And who's your favorite band or singer and songwriter that you listen to between law school and putting your live streams together?
And I thank you so much for the support. And that's a good question, That's a great one. And I'm trying to think about how to answer that question, because the thing is that unlike many people, I don't really listen to a lot of modern music. The music y'all hear in the 10-minute countdowns, especially last night, is kind of some of the music I listen to commonly. I just really enjoy older music for some reason. It's just really nice to me. It's something you can actually sing along with, unlike some modern songs. Like some modern songs are so varying in vocal range that I just have no idea how anyone sings along with them or enjoys them like that. But largely older songs. If I had to say a specific group, dang, that's tough. I don't think I have a specific group. If I had to pick one, though, I would say, to be honest, I'm drawing a blank because I actually don't have a specific group. I hate to let you down like that because I know you're trying to get some insight with what kind of music we listen to, but I don't listen to any specific music. I just kind of listen to really anything that's kind of nice, you know, and I really I like a lot of World War I songs. Those are really nice. And so with that, what do you listen to, Matthew?
Typically, I don't listen to a ton of music either, but when I do, it's typically stuff like Frank Sinatra, Coldplay. Let's see here, what's some more? A few of those Aerosmith songs, things like that. And I really can't think of a ton of them right off the bat. I would have to go like look at my playlist and everything and look, but I'm not a huge music person.
And I know that personally. Matthew's not a big music person, but I hate to let you down like that. I hope that does answer the question, though. I hope that's what you were kind of looking for, although it certainly isn't, and I do apologize for that. But thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're now going to be moving on into our second bit of news inside of the Middle East. However, we have to have a special little intro tonight for this. And so, without further ado, I'm going to be putting y'all into a short little countdown that's going to serve as our intermission from this point forward with how we're covering the news. And then once the intermission is over, the Middle Eastern news will begin immediately. And so, without further ado...
Now, this is fantastic.
We're going to be back after the break. And we are back, everyone, to move into the next segment of news, which is going to be the Middle Eastern war news on the second day of actual coverage. We're going to be beginning off our news tonight with our first bit at Entente, the most breaking news of the day, as the Department of Defense has reported that 20 American service members have been injured at the compound after it was attacked several days ago. According to reports at the moment, many of these service members have returned back into service at the compound at Entente. From what we were told, this is also a picture taken around a year or two ago from the exact compound that was attacked by the Iranian drones just a little while earlier. This, of course, is a very serious event, considering that the Department of Defense initially denied that there were any American casualties of any sort at the base, but from what we were told, there was apparently 20 injuries, followed by a second drone attack that same night on the Al-Assad air base in western Iraq, which caused 4 injuries and the destruction of an aircraft hangar containing a small plane of an unknown kind. We also heard that the 24 U.S. service members have all since returned to active duty after sustaining their injuries. Nevertheless, this is a very serious occurrence, and one that we've heard has started to set off some larger alarm bells inside of the United States government, which takes us directly overseas and into the capital, Washington, D.C. During the last few hours of the before the stream ran, we did hear that a contingency plan is being created by the U.S. Department of Defense if the situation is to go even further south. This was according to Visigrad 24, which states that the Washington Post reports that the White House has ordered the Department of Defense to prepare a contingency plan for a worst-case scenario in the Middle East. It would include the evacuation of more than 500,000 U.S. citizens from Israel and Lebanon. We've also heard that this plan may also include the mobilization of a large amount of U.S. forces to be moved directly into the Middle East without delay to begin fighting against the groups that would conduct these attacks. We have also heard an additional statement, a message of strength from the United States today that was issued by the U.S. Secretary of State, who stated that the United States will not seek a conflict with Iran, but if Iran or its proxies attack the United States, quote unquote, we will defend our people, we will defend ourselves, our security swiftly and decisively, according to the Secretary of State. A very strong statement made on the back of the attacks that have already been conducted against U.S. forces at 3 bases inside of Syria, the Al-Assad air base in Iraq, and also the Victory base at the Iraqi International Airport, showing once again that the situation is starting to ramp up very quickly, and the United States is not kidding around with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Further attacks appear, according to the statements made today, and also additional actions that were made, to be showing that the United States will be getting directly involved in the Middle East most likely soon. We've also heard that this has been accompanied by the arrival of the 3-star general from the United States Marine Corps in Israel yesterday, and we've also heard that 14 Patriot batteries, each one costing around $1 billion apiece, meaning that $14 billion of Patriot missile systems are immediately being moved into the Middle East as of this moment. They are currently being airlifted over the North Atlantic and will be arriving in several countries inside of the Middle East. Some of these countries will also be quite interesting to some, considering that it seemed that the relations that we had with these nations had deteriorated a while ago. But according to the OSINT Defender, and pictured at the bottom are some of the Patriot batteries, and these appear to be possibly deployed in the Middle East, although we don't know exactly where. According to U.S. defense officials, the Army is currently scrambling to deploy at least 12 air defense systems to the multiple countries across the Middle East before the Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip is set to soon begin. A terminal high-altitude air defense THAAD battery for use against ballistic missiles is currently on its way to Saudi Arabia from Fort Bliss, Texas, while at least 11 MEM-104 Patriot surface-to-air missile systems from both Fort Liberty, North Carolina, and Fort Sill, Oklahoma, where Ukrainian forces had also been trained on the system, are heading to locations in Kuwait, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. This means that the spread of U.S. surface-to-air missile systems over the area will be considerably large, and will also include a country that many have thought we were currently having freezing relations with, which is the Saudis. The Saudi Arabians and the United States have not necessarily had the best diplomatic relations as of late, but it does appear that in the current situation, the Saudi government is allowing for U.S. forces such as the surface-to-air missile systems like the Patriot and the THAAD to be positioned inside of their country to provide air defense for the overall region and also for U.S. operations in support of Israel. This is showing that the Saudi Arabians have a little bit more diplomatically directly at play than many people thought. And something that has actually been downplayed on this channel as well, news-wise, is that the Saudi Arabians and the Iranians, or the Iranians, have actually been having deteriorating relations of their own that nearly came to blows nearly a year ago, as the Ayatollah of Iran actually started to directly lash out verbally against the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, which led to a diplomatic freeze of relations that has not improved to this day. And so it appears that the Saudi Arabians consider the Iranians to be a greater enemy to them than the United States of America, and therefore will be allowing the basing of U.S. forces there. We have also heard that inside of Israel today, the situation is starting to pick up. We have not seen the official ground invasion begin yet. We have seen, however, that Israeli ground actions near the area of the Gaza Strip are certainly starting to escalate. A video came out today showing a large Israeli buildup of a Israeli tank unit. We can also interestingly note that some of these Merkavas are starting to install cope cages, much like the Russian Federation did on their main battle tanks that entered the war in Ukraine. This may actually be a good move for some of the Merkavas, for example, this one right here, the Merkava Mark IV-M, as it does have a trophy system which should be able, hypothetically, to possibly defend this Merkava from the sides, from a direct side-on attack from a drone. Trophy systems like these, and you can see one of them right here, the pad for it, actually launch out small little projectiles meant to destroy incoming anti-tank guided missile systems, as well as incoming projectiles of any kind, and we believe that may include drones. And so really the only threat to the Merkava is a drone drop munition from directly above. The mesh net in this situation may actually be useful, because otherwise the drones attacking these Merkava Mark IV-Ms will most likely be destroyed at incredibly close ranges by the trophy systems that are mounted onto the side of the turret. We can see, however, that as the car continues to drive on by, there is a mass of forces in this area, a load of M113s, a mass of Merkavas. Endless amounts of Israeli forces are amassing along the border, clearly showing that Israel is intent in conducting this ground invasion of the Strip.
And how long ago did this video come out?
From what I can tell, 18 hours ago.
Dang, they're really ready to go for that to be 18 hours past.
They are, and they moved into position fast. Also, another thing...
Seems a little risky just to keep them sitting out there for 18 hours, too. It seems like sitting ducks.
Somewhat, and I would say that that's probably the case for the armored personnel carriers. They may be in a little bit of jeopardy. But for these Merkava Mark IV-Ms, where we can see the trophy system once again right there, this may actually be perfectly fine. As long as the trophy system is on and operational, they probably will be able to stop these Merkavas from getting hit by any kind of a drone or drone munition. So, of course, this video is certainly showing us that Israeli forces are definitely amassing, unlike some people saying, some people have been saying out there that the Israeli ground invasion actually isn't going to happen, it's all just talk. The massing of forces in that numbers in some areas of the Strip are certainly showing that the ground invasion will be beginning soon. And we have seen some of the forward elements of the Israeli army already engaging Hamas forces near the border walls of the Gaza Strip. We got to see that right here. And so I'm going to be unmuting the clip. And from what we understand, this is a camera view from a Merkava. When you see a Hamas fighter running along the border fence, when you see the tank fire, and it appears that there is now a crater where that guy was. We now see two more Hamas fighters moving around. You see the tank fire. And it appears that these guys are not having a great time of it either. That's the end of that clip, but we can also hear the Israeli tank crew in the background as they are firing off the shots. Very interesting to hear and also see that some of Israel's forward elements are already beginning to engage Hamas fighters in the open near the border wall. Moving on from that and into our next clip, towards the northern side of the Gaza Strip, we also saw Hamas militants firing off mortars onto the Israeli side of the border, wearing civilian clothing. This is not a Hamas soldier that is clearly dressed up in the Hamas uniform, which is some kind of a green headband along with the ski mask, which makes them look like they're about to rob the local bank. But we did not see this guy dressed up in that uniform. He's actually just dressed up in normal plain Jane clothes, which does not differentiate him from a civilian. This is also a violation of the Geneva Convention if we are treating Hamas as armed combatants. So for this guy, he just got off of work at the local shop and then just came out here and fired some mortar rounds. That's the end of that clip right there, but still, very interesting to see that this guy is just out there firing a mortar. Meanwhile, we did see that the Israeli Air Force continued to conduct strikes on Hamas targets within the Strip, and it appears that they were able to cause some pretty decent damage to some of these alleged Hamas sites. Once again, I have to say that they are alleged because unlike the Ukrainians, which show a massive amount of detail before their strikes occur, which always confirm that Russian forces are inside the buildings that they are attacking, the Israelis don't provide us with that much of a preamble to these videos to confirm that these are Hamas sites. So while they may all be Hamas sites, or none of them may be Hamas sites, we have to say that they are alleged Hamas sites because the IDF is claiming that they are, but we haven't been able to see any video or picture evidence to confirm each one for ourselves. So they are always going to be alleged sites. But we can see the multiple strikes occurring on different buildings throughout the Strip, and it appears that each one was launched successfully. We can also see the usual Israeli tactic of striking towards the base of the building to try and disrupt the foundation and then lead to the collapse of the building. We can see that right here as well, with 2 bombs striking on both sides, probably compromising the stability of the building and most likely leading to an inevitable collapse. But still, very interesting to see the Israeli Air Force continuing to conduct its strikes in that area of the Strip, and we also saw an additional video of Israel continuing to hit Hamas targets even further down the Strip. We can see them hitting a building dead on right there, supposedly a Hamas center for either munitions or command. We can also see them hitting another building as well right there. And that one appears to have turned into actual dust from the 2,000-pound guided bomb that was just dropped on top of it. We can now see additional buildings also getting hit as well. This one appears to once again have collapsed at the foundation.
It's like hot lava, I'm telling you.
Oh man, I'm telling you. We can see a video there in actual color showing what the explosions look like. But with that, that's the end of the clip and just showing the continued airstrikes by the Israeli Air Force as the Israeli ground forces, or the Israeli army, is now building up along the borders of the northern Gaza Strip and has a smaller flanking force down here on the southern Gaza Strip that we understand is far smaller in size compared to the amount of forces in the northern Gaza Strip. With that, we're now going to be moving on from the news that is directly inside of the Gaza Strip, and we're now going to be moving on into many of the questions and statements that y'all have been making in the live chat about what has been going on in the Middle East and once again in Ukraine. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving back into our next poll segment, our first one says the U.S. is preparing to evacuate 500,000 U.S. citizens from Israel in case of invasion, and what are your thoughts? 49% said that we should focus on getting out now versus later. 26% said that plan is going to fail. 16% said unsure, and 9% said that plan will work very well. And I gotta say, it's never really a good idea to wait until the crap hits the fan to start getting people out. I think they should probably go ahead and start doing that now. And if the people want to stay in face of the risk, then they need to go ahead and assume that risk and understand that they might not get out as quickly as they want to because they're staying in the middle of a war zone. Me personally, I don't think that plan is going to work very well if they do it after the fact. Just look at how we got out of Afghanistan, and that shows you how things go when it gets chaotic. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would also have to say that it's going to be a pretty tough thing to evacuate 500,000 people in the middle of an ongoing conflict when those aircraft are most likely going to have to be used for the war effort more so than anything. It would be pretty tough to try and pull something off like that. I would have to agree with Matthew. I think we should act with caution and begin to evacuate these people right now so that way they don't end up getting caught in a war zone. Some people think that it is perfectly fine to be in a war zone and then act like it's terrible that war zone things happen. My mindset is that if you are in a war zone and war zone things happen, You kind of accept the risks with that. And I don't really like the idea of turning that onto its head and then leaving 500,000 people there with really no option to leave at the moment or an ability to evacuate. And then war zone things happen, and they weren't willing to accept those risks, most likely. They were just staying there, most likely conducting business or living with their families, and then they end up getting attacked. That's something that I don't think we should do. I think we should already start to preemptively evacuate them, and then if they stay, and beyond the evacuation window, and then war zone things happen, we're just going to have to chalk that up to war zone things happen. That's just an accepted part of life. There was someone in particular that I kind of saw that was kind of a little ridiculous to me, that had gone to a certain place, and rockets were flying overhead, and anti-aircraft systems were shooting them down, and they started to act like they too were a victim of the war, although they had chosen to go there knowing it was a war zone. I'm not really into the idea of giving sympathy to folks like that, because it's like, it's a war zone. War zone things are going to happen. It's kind of like the goofy people who also say they're going to take a biking trip through Iraq to show it's not a dangerous place, and then they end up getting beheaded by ISIS. It's like, you know, I feel kind of sorry for them, but at the same time, it's Iraq in the mid-2010s. It's rife with terrorist groups. You kind of should expect that terrorist activities are going to be happening against you if you go into that area. So with that in mind, with that kind of mindset, and that's the one I'm working off of in play, I would say we need to preemptively evacuate these people so that way we don't have something like that happen where people are there against their will in the middle of a war zone, and then it incredibly complicates things. But once again, I have to put this out there. I have sympathy for civilians entirely, but when people go into dangerous places, and they know they're dangerous, and then dangerous things happen, and then they want to act like they're a victim of that, I don't have any sympathy for that, because you're putting yourself into a dangerous situation. That's kind of the assumed risk of going there. That's like jumping into a pool, like, you know, cannonballing into a pool, and then getting water up your nose and acting like that was an unexpected consequence. You were cannonballing into a pool. It's obviously expected that you're going to get water up your nose when you're cannonballing. You know, it's stuff like that that really irks me and grinds my gears with people. And then they want to act like now they're some kind of a special ordained person because they went somewhere voluntarily, and then something that you know was going to happen happened, and they were there for it. And so
I agree. And also, and can you imagine the U.S. government trying to get out 500,000 people at one time during the middle of a active invasion? I mean, that would be absolute chaos and confusion gone wild.
let me see here. A C-17 can carry 102 paratroopers, and it can carry 102 civilians if it needs to. Let's see. How many C-17s do we have? How many C-17s do we have? We have 223 of them. So that means at any given moment, we could carry, 223 times 102. We could carry about 23,000 people on all of the C-17s if they were all used. 22,000 of them. And let's just say, to make the math very simple, because I'm not good at math and it could also get very complicated very quickly, let's just say that all of them can land in Lebanon and Israel at the same time, load up everyone, and then it's like around an 8-hour flight or so to wherever these people are going. That means that all of the C-17s in the strategic airlift of the Air Force could move about 23,000 people every 8 hours. And that means that they could move around 68,000 people every day. If everything went, well, actually, that's not even factoring in the round trip. So, let's see, let's divide that by 2. They'd be able to probably move about 34,000 people a day with all of the C-17s in the Air Force evacuating people. And that's
with everything going perfect too. And also it would literally be a replay of Afghanistan, because you know there'd be people in Israel that aren't necessarily U.S. citizens trying to also get out as well. You'd have people probably doing the same thing they were doing in Afghanistan, trying to hitch a ride on the plane and, you know, meeting an unfortunate end because they didn't get on properly.
And also I saw Noel Jordan saying a cruise ship with a capacity of 5,000 is standing by right now and move them to a few hundred miles to Cyprus. That just isn't enough. 5,000. That's only 1% of the amount of people we would have to evacuate right there. And even if they were just doing round trips to and fro from Lebanon to Cyprus or from Israel to Cyprus, that still isn't going to be able to get enough of them out of there quickly. And going off of our C-17s, all of the C-17s in the strategic airlift being used to get these people out, and they were only able to move around 34,000 of them a day, that means that to get all 500,000 of these people out, it would take approximately 2 entire weeks of a constant airlift with every single C-17 available being used to get these people out of Israel and Lebanon. That right there, in the amount of time it would take and how badly things could go over the course of those 2 weeks, I think we need to start conducting that evacuation right now. So that way we can get everyone out, and if there's any stragglers left, we will just say, if you're going to stay here, understand, if things go bad, it is a war zone at that point. We can't come get you. This is the only chance you get to get out right now. Beyond that, we're going to be tied up doing a million other things in the region. All of the aircraft we have are going to have to be used for the war effort. So just understand, if you are here, you cannot complain because war zone things will happen, and you're choosing to stay here. I think that's what I think that's largely the stance the United States should take. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says right here, the U.S. Army is scrambling to deploy air defense and the THAAD system in the Middle East before invasion of Gaza. And what are your thoughts? 52% said yes, it will be installed in time. 27% said it should have been done a while back. 11% said unsure, and 10% said, whatever, it works. And I saw some people arguing in the chat earlier that we couldn't have done it earlier than now because Israel didn't see it coming. But that is just Israel's intel. We don't know if the U.S. saw it coming, and I would imagine that probably not all of us messed it up. And I would probably imagine that the U.S. had some intel that this was going to happen, and it seems like we would have probably had those assets maybe in place by now before this broke out, but it seems like the U.S. is reacting to things a lot more than they are being proactive these days, which is something that we need to get a handle on. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, can you reread that prompt, actually?
Says the U.S. Army is scrambling to deploy air defense, THAAD, in the Middle East before invasion.
And that's it?
And thoughts.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, that's just a statement. But I would say that's good to know that they're getting air defense into the region. It's one of the key assets of keeping the ground forces safe. And so hopefully we'll see that get over there very soon. And once again, that requires aircraft like actually those would most likely be C-5 Galaxies carrying that over, but still requires aircraft that we wouldn't be able to use for other things, like evacuating 500,000 people from Lebanon and Israel. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And with that, we are fresh out of poll questions, so we must move into our super chat questions. And up first, we have one from BC Skyman, who throws in a very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, BC, as always, for that support. And he says, we dedicate tonight's stream to CME4PC and cherish the memories we have made knowing him while we are here on Earth. And he will be dearly missed and was loved by the LSA family, and we are praying for his family and will see him on the other side. And BC, that's a very, very good way to put that. Very good words, by the way. And I must say that really rest in peace to CME4PC. I did have the chance to chat with him a few times, not too many times. But it is definitely very sad to hear that he did pass, and condolences to CME's family as well, because I know that Jen is here as well, so condolences to Jen also, and it's just very unfortunate to hear. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I also have to agree, that was a great eulogy that you just gave, BC Skyman, to CME. CME have been around forever in the Lee Spring Army, and not only had he been around forever and been a constant presence in the live chat, he also was a big friend to many of y'all and had been here for such a long time. A lot of y'all got to know who CME4PC was. It's terrible to think that CME passed away. Of course, everyone in life isn't lucky enough to always live. Well, I don't know how old CME was. Hopefully he lived his life to the fullest and had a very long and very fruitful life. But Nevertheless, it's terrible to hear that CME passed away. CME 4PC had actually been here before Matthew was even on the channel. He had been here since about day 4, probably about as long as you have been here, BC Skyman. And it's terrible to think that folks have been watching this channel and have passed away. CME 4PC, from what we understand, isn't the first. Anthony Bestwick was largely the first one that I knew of that had watched this channel and had also passed away at some point. Of course, he said that he was going into the hospice as well, and I always like to keep a positive outlook. But considering that CME 4PC had gone into hospice and had practically died within just a few days of going into hospice, if that was the same thing that happened to Anthony Bestwick, I'm sure he's also passed as well, which is really unfortunate to think about. But one thing is for certain, that CME 4PC will live on through the community of the Lee Spring Army. Many of you all got to know him. He was an integral part of the community. He was always active in the live chat, and it's unfortunate to know that he did pass away. He's been around for literally ages. He's been around ever since this channel has been covering news. And I've got to say that it's unfortunate to know that he did pass away. And I got to thank you for putting out such kind words, BC Skyman, to honor CME 4PC, because this stream is in commemoration of an amazing member of the Lee Spring Army and an old guard for sure. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who throws in a $31 donation, and thank you very much, Margaret, as always, for that support. And she says, yesterday's super chat about potions was only in jest, and we want truth, we want facts, we want you. And I totally enjoy the way you bring the news, and no one else has your unique style. I'm your biggest fan, and live chat question, please.
And thank you so much for the support, Margaret Hemsley, and helping the channel to keep on running. And also, perfectly understandable. Sometimes we misread things every once in a while, and that may have been one of them. But still, thank you so much for saying that y'all want truth and facts. We try and deliver that the best we can, and of course, we're always in a constant battle, suffering from success in a way with how we report on this channel. We usually get to things before anyone else does, so it usually looks like we're clickbaiting, and then everyone the next day gets to the story. Like, I've seen a lot of people getting to the stories we were covering yesterday, today, and now a lot of people are hearing those, and so now we're a whole day ahead of them. While they're reporting yesterday's stories, we're reporting what will be tomorrow's stories for them, and a lot of people will probably not even believe the news that we're covering until tomorrow, until they hear it from apparently a more credible group than us. But still, thank you so much for enjoying the way we bring the news on the channel. We try our best to make the delivery as good as possible. I hope you all did enjoy our little transition card that we had tonight in between the Ukraine and the Middle Eastern news segment, because I put in a decent amount of effort into that tonight. I think it took about an hour to make that thing, and I had to rush through and get it done as quick as possible. So it wasn't exactly the finished product I wanted, but it looks like a lot of y'all really liked it. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And thank you, Margaret, for saying that you're one of the biggest fans. I got to thank you so much for that, because it does mean a lot to me. And thank you for supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running, so that way we can continue to be on air and continue to run the news the way we have for 608 days of the war. And so with that, let's get a live chat.
And the live chat question goes to Rocky Huerta. I probably butchered that, but thank you, Rocky, for the live chat question. He says, when does the rainy season hit?
The rainy season has already hit. It hit around mid-October, and it's been getting the ground into a nice slush, and it will stay that way until about mid to late November, and then we'll see the ground begin to freeze up, and then once it starts to freeze, it'll start to solidify again into something usable, and then we'll probably see some kind of a winter offensive kick off. If the logistics are there for it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support, Margaret Hemsley, and helping this channel to keep on running, and also sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have yet another super chat from Harvey the Drummer, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much once again, Harvey, for the second support of the night. And he says, picking a favorite band is like picking a favorite child. If you want to listen to something happy, pull up anything by Gorillaz. And if you want to feel like an Israeli or Ukrainian soldier, listen to Bleed by Musuga.
And thank you so much for the support, Harvey the Drummer. And Harvey the Drummer is throwing in band recommendations tonight, and I will try and take a look at them. I think I've heard of Gorillaz before. I think I've heard a little bit of their music, and I've just got to say, I don't know what it is, y'all, but for some reason, modern music just doesn't really click with me all too well. It's something about it. I don't know. But to be honest, my honest take on a lot of modern music is that a lot of it just seems so commercialized. You know, it doesn't really seem like there's any soul in it much. like there used to be. Like people used to write songs back in the day, in my opinion, that actually had soul and spirit in them. We're usually trying to tell a story or relate with everyone through a common experience. And nowadays, the music does still do that, but at the same time, I just feel like it doesn't really do it in the way it used to. It seems as though most songs are trying to pander. Like modern country just isn't country anymore. I think country died about around the 1990s, in my opinion. And from there, it just kind of became pandering, like just trying to throw in as many common names that everyone can relate to in a song, like a Bud Light or a tractor or a truck or something, and just run with it. Like older country songs, just to speak specifically about country, used to have stories in them, like Ernest Ford's 16 Tons. It's the story of a coal miner and the kind of sucky life that they have, and it's a relatable story, and one that's very interesting to folks that aren't coal miners, that can't really relate to the story, because it gives you a little bit of a glimpse into the mindset of coal miners, and it was a very accurate song for that, very good story. And then, of course, there was Johnny Cash songs. Everyone knows Johnny Cash. And there was the one, like, One Piece at a Time. It's just a ridiculous song, about someone smuggling parts out of the Cadillac factory over, like, 20 years. It's ridiculous, but it's a look into, like, the mindset of American workers at the time. It's a really good story. It's, like, a great storytelling thing. But modern songs just don't really do that too much, at least to me. But still, I will take a look into those songs because maybe those aren't the case. I don't really know. I haven't listened to every song in the modern world because, of course, there's limitless amounts of modern songs. More songs are being made today than there probably was over the course of an entire year in the 1940s or 50s. And so I will make sure to look into that, Harvey the Drummer. And thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I also will look into Musica as well, if that's how to pronounce it, because that would be pretty interesting to hear, because you say it sounds like an Israeli or Ukrainian soldier, like what they would listen to. So maybe that's pretty good. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on into the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Rob Eisman, who puts in a $20 donation as well. Thank you very much, Rob, for your support of the channel also. Hey. And Rob says, for CME 4 PC, may eternal rest grant unto him, Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. And may his soul rest in peace, and please, Lord, provide sanctuary for a life this man never fully had the chance to live.
And I would agree as well, Rob, and I gotta say, it's once again unfortunate to know that CME 4 PC has passed. It was actually something that I was having a hard time trying to figure out how to break that news to everyone tonight. We were debating whether we were going to address that nearer to the end of the stream, like right now, or at the beginning. But considering that CME 4 PC had been around for such a long time, and many of y'all had known them, I thought it would be the best thing to do to let y'all know at the beginning of the stream of CME 4 PC's passing. On top of that, I feel like it's a service to the entirety of the Lee Spring Army, and also to the memory of CME 4 PC, that we put them to the forefront. CME has been around forever. I mean, I can't stress that enough. CME had been here since the channel blew up on day 4, and I've always seen him in the live chat, always saying hey, saying what's up. I've always said hey to him back during the first 10 minutes of the stream all the times, and every once in a while we were also able to address his live chats here and there as well, and also what he was saying in the chat. And it's just the saddest thing to know that CME did pass. I hope that he's in a better place. I bet he is probably in a better place, and hopefully the Lord will be able to provide him sanctuary for the life he wasn't able to fully live. Cancer is probably one of the most bitter and nasty things in the world to get. It's almost an indestructible force. People battle cancer endlessly, and somehow, some way, cancer never really goes away. It's one of the toughest battles that people fight as far as illnesses go, and from what we understand, CME had fought that fight for an incredibly long time, and had certainly given it the best run of it. And it's an amazing thing to know that this community was here with him during his last few years, about the last 2 years of his life, and we're able to talk to him and get to know him as friends as well as us. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Rob, and helping the channel to keep on running. And once again, huge respect and a massive loss to the Lee Spring Army in the form of CME 4 PC's passing. And so with that, hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Marion Deemer, who puts in a $20 donation as well. And huge shout out to Marion, who's also a longtime channel viewer, just like Rob. And thank you for helping to keep us running. And Marion said, "Slava Ukraine and Herom Slava."
And Slava Ukraini and Herom Slava. And thank you so much once again for support, Marion, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because folks like you help us to keep the lights on and help this thing to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this possible and do this day in and day out. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Psyops, who puts in a $20 donation as well. Psyops is also a longtime channel viewer, and thank you very much for that support. And he says, "A true friend, a man of courage, integrity, and compassion. I will forever cherish and appreciate our friendship and conversations. I will miss CME, and though I may be distant, please let Jen know you are not alone in grief."
And I thank you for the support as well, Sibes. And I've got to say that hopefully, in also, Matthew, do you know if Jen is here tonight?
I don't think she might be tonight.
I haven't seen her in the live chat either. I don't think Jen is here tonight. But if Jen is here tonight, hopefully, if you're hearing this, you are not alone at all. The entire Lee Spring Army is with you tonight, and we, of course, mourn your loss. The entirety of the Lee Spring Army mourns your loss that you, of course, endured today. And I hope that you also understand and know that the Lee Spring Army is here to back you and your family up every single step of the way from this point forward. It's terrible to know that such a long-time channel viewer has passed away. It's not the first time that that's happened, although this is the first time that I've gotten official breaking of the news that they have, in fact, passed. And it's terrible to think that one of our longtime viewers is gone. Of course, will never be forgotten, however. I'm sure that many of y'all will continue to keep the spirit of CME4PC alive in the chat, because many of y'all knew him, and many of y'all have been able to get to talk to him. He was a very talkative person in our live chat, always getting to know each and every single one of y'all, including us as well, and he was an amazing person. And so, with that, thank you once again for the support, Sibes, and I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Aaron Shu, who puts in a $20 donation as well, and thank you very much, Aaron, for that support. He says, "In loving honor of CME4PC, may his friends and family find comfort and healing in this difficult time until we meet again."
And thank you for the support as well. And I've got to say that it's very unfortunate once again to know that CME has passed. And hopefully everything will go well for his family, of course, as well as it can be. Losing a family member, losing, your spouse is a pretty major event. Having had several folks die in my family, I know that the sadness that comes around with that is something that you can't really skirt over. It's something that you will, of course, have to go through and endure. But nevertheless, I think that that's a great sign, actually, because it shows that the folks actually cared for each other and loved each other greatly, to be able to feel their loss so profoundly. And so I guess there is a silver lining to it in knowing that, everyone deeply misses CME4PC and had known him for such a long time that his loss is greatly missed. And it means that a great connection and a great friendship had been made by not just us to CME, but also from all of y'all as well. And so with that, thank you for the support, and I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Bernard Rubin, and thank you very much, Bernard, for that support. He says, "Will Israel de-Hamasify in the same way the Allies denazified Germany, or is it too risky?"
I think that that's Israel's current war aims at the moment inside of the Gaza Strip, is to try and de-Hamasify the Gaza Strip. I don't know if they're going to be successful in that, however, because considering the overwhelming public support that Hamas has in the Strip, it's probably going to be very difficult for them to pull something like that off. But at the same time, Nazi Germany also had a wide amount of public support within Nazi Germany. And so we also overcame that. So it's entirely possible that Israel will be able to overcome the Hamasification of the Gaza Strip. But who's to say that they can? I think only time will tell on that. But I have a feeling that that is certainly their aim with the upcoming ground invasion. And so with that, I hope that does address that further well, and thank you so much once again for the support, Bernard, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because folks like you help to keep this channel running and help to make the nightly shows possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, shout out to channel legend Duncan VR for putting in a $25.69 donation. Nice.
Yay!
And thank you very much, Duncan, as always, for that support. And he says, "Bamuba, Sam said, Gizlik Verlaken. I'm eating a burger, Baba, Moo Moo, on my yacht. Rough moo, wolf, quack, bah, oh my, 1800 no respect. Answer Matt, blah, blah, oh man, I'm telling you. Man, I'm not manning the 1-800 no respect hotline. But, well, but never mind. I'm not going to make that joke. But Enforcer, what say you?
And geschlick Lightman, and thank you so much for the support, Duncan VR, and of course helping the channel to keep on running. Of course, it wouldn't be Elite Spring Army Night without the animal noises. And I gotta thank you once again, Duncan, for supporting the channel and helping us to keep this thing running and throwing in animal noises in the middle of this stream. It's actually a little bit of a emotionally tough one. I'm sure it is for many people, and so I bet that's a fairly nice reprieve for some, including me. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Junebug without the 72 on the end, who puts in a $14 donation without a comment. And thank you very much, Junebug, for that support, and we do appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much, Junebug, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, folks like you have helped this channel to keep on running for an incredibly long time. And if it wasn't for support from folks like you, Junebug, it wouldn't have been possible for us to keep this thing rolling. And so thank you so much once again. And while you didn't throw in a chat or a comment, your support does say a lot. And it helps us to say a lot and to continue to run this show. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Siri, who puts in a $10 donation and says, for CME for PC.
And thank you for the support, Siri, and thank you for once also commemorating CME4 PC tonight as well. It's incredibly unfortunate to know of his passing. We were informed of that an hour before the stream, and we'd also been informed that he had been put into hospice several days ago. It's terrible to know, and once again, that a large member of the Lee Spring Army had died in Old Guard. And of course, one thing I am certain is that the Lee Spring Army will not forget CME4 PC, and CME4 PC will continue to live on in some form through the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Psyops yet again, and Psyops puts in 2 super chats, and they're each a $10 donation. And sadly, we cannot read off either one of them because they are very different. They are very non-PG, let's just put it that way, and Psyops style. And Psyops, in honor of those 2 super chats, and thank you very much for that support, by the way, we will, as I get rid of a bot out of the chat, grab a live chat question in honor of those super chats. And thank you very much once again for that support. And the live chat question is going to go to Kilroy Was Here, who says, would the big piece of the turret that went flying after the turret exploded make it a double turret toss in that one video we looked at earlier?
It might. That's not entirely out of the question. It might. I think, though, the turret did fly in one big piece. I think what you're talking about was like a side of the side skirt that popped off when it blew up. But it might qualify as a double turret toss. And even then, that means it's a 20 out of 10 because it had 2 turrets instead of 1. And so with that, I hope that addresses that live chat fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Octavius Augustus, who puts in a 10 and says, I've been a silent watcher of the channel since day 2 afternoon stream, and thank you, gentlemen, for all you do, and take a question from the chat. And you are even older than me on the stream, so you've been around for a few weeks before I was even here, so you are definitely a longtime channel legend, and also thank you very much for that support.
And thank you for the support, Octavius Augustus, and helping this channel to keep on running. A very Roman name, if I say so myself. And also, it's amazing to know that you've been a silent watcher since day 2. That's been a long time, and I got to thank you so much for supporting this channel tonight and helping us to keep this thing rolling, and thank you so much for enjoying everything we do. I think that folks like you, Octavius Augustus, are a shining example of why this channel is special. This is the first time you've ever supported the channel. You have been watching this channel for 606 days now, and have been able to watch it without having to see a single ad, a single sponsor, or anything, even being harassed for a membership. And you have continuously been watching this channel, hitting the like button, always here, always around, and now you have, of course, supported the channel and helped us keep this thing going. It is folks like you who make this channel possible. And I gotta thank you so much once again for being a longtime viewer, an old guard by the rule, even by the original standard. And I gotta thank you so much once again for enjoying the work we do, and also sponsoring a live chat question. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the live chat question is going to go to David Bailey, who says, why don't Israel use robot dogs to go through tunnels to limit losses? And what are your thoughts?
I think that they would try to do that if they had the robot dogs, but I don't know if they have them, and I don't know if they can afford them. So that would probably be my best answer to that at the moment. And so with that, thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat, Octavius Augustus, and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Junebug72, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Junebug, with the 72 on the end for your support as well. And she says, thank you so much. That's all. My best to you both, and prayers and love for us all in our world. Slav Ukraine and God bless America. Am Yisrael Chai. Peace to our world. And live chat, please, and good evening.
And good evening to Junebug72, the other Junebug that is here tonight. Both of y'all are here tonight, actually. And I gotta thank you so much once again for enjoying the channel and supporting us and helping us to keep this thing running. And thank you for enjoying it greatly. Also, thank you so much for just, throwing out the huge thanks for the work we do. It means a lot to us that people do enjoy it. And I got to thank you so much once again for, letting us know that you do enjoy it. It means a lot because with a world full of people who complain, it is very nice to hear people who actually enjoy the show and make it quite clear that they do. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Slav Ukraini. God bless America, and God bless Israel. And peace to our world. I wish. That's something that I wish. But one thing that I'm not into, and I've made this clear throughout the entire war in Ukraine, is the United States bending our knee to try and secure a temporary peace just for the time. Sometimes conflicts are inevitable, and sadly there will never be a never-lasting peace on Earth. Probably never will be one. And so for that reason, I would say that we always have to make sure to stand up for what's right and what's in our interests, and to make sure to defend the Israelis and also American forces inside the Middle East. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Junebug72. I hope that does address that well, and we will make sure to get a live chat. And so with that, what do we got?
And the live chat question goes to Andrew, who says, do you guys think Avdiivka will end up like Bakhmut?
I don't really know at the moment. It appears that they're taking, the Russians are taking significant losses and not really making a lot of ground. So going off of that, it's possible. But we don't really know if the Russians will just continue to run their heads into a brick wall until they take Avdiivka. That's the one thing that would make it look like the Battle of Bakhmut, but we're not really sure about that yet, because it does appear that they kind of go in ebbs and flows at this point, where they'll try and push really hard, they'll take a lot of losses, and then they'll stop for a little bit. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Bob Anon, who puts in a 7. And Bob says, do you think the Russian ships sitting in Crimea could end up part of a new tranche of Russian Lend-Lease should the Russian lines collapse?
I think it possibly could. Not out of the question. But if you're talking about Ukrainian, Lend-Lease to the Ukrainians, I would say possibly not. Because the Ukrainians probably wouldn't want to field a navy this large. It's fairly expensive, actually, and it's something the Ukrainians would most likely want to avoid. But that's just me. I mean, they might want to get the stuff after the war, because these little Bora-class anti-ship vessels, like this one right here, they're actually pretty decent for what they are. So they might want those, but some of the other ones, like the Vasily Baikov, they might not want. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to First Person View News, who puts in a 5 and says, Enforcer Matt, LSA from Huntsville, and hey, let's go. They said, Google home of the Patriot missile, Redstone Arsenal. And we are very familiar with the Redstone Arsenal. We've been up there, not actually inside the base. I think we maybe went there once and had to turn around and all that good stuff because we got stuck at the gate. But we have been around the area. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I have to say that it is really something to know that you're from Huntsville. Really cool to know that we do have Alabama viewers here with us tonight. And also, Huntsville is the home to the, what the hell? I just forgot. The Patriot system.
Redstone Arsenal?
Yeah, the Redstone Arsenal, but it's home to the Patriot system. It's also home to the HIMARS. It's home to a lot of our missile systems. This is really where the Army starts to develop all of that stuff right inside of the Redstone Arsenal. So really cool to know that Huntsville is the home of that. And also, it's also really, really cool to know that Huntsville is now officially the largest city in the state of Alabama, now beating out Birmingham, Alabama in size, which is unbelievable, because Birmingham had like an indomitable hold over being the largest city in the state for at least a century. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And hello to the Lee Spring Army from Alabama. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Pickles Gaming, who puts in a 5 and says, I just got here and have you all talked about the intercepting of a plane, and I'm just hearing about it.
I have not talked about the intercepting of a plane. We have not heard about that at all. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and sadly, we don't have any news on that at all, so we'd have to declare ignorance. And so with that, we are on to the next one, but thank you once again.
And the next one goes to Dark Warrior 137, who puts in a 5 and says, Iran should remember what happened last time they wounded 10 of our guys in the Gulf. We're about to get real proportional around here.
And I gotta thank you for the support, Dark Warrior, and I would agree. They ought to remember what happens when messing with the United States, because it never ends well for the people who do it. And just because they have a lot of mountains in between the Persian Gulf and their capital doesn't mean anything. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 5 and says, take a live chat question. And thank you very much, CK, as always, for that very generous support. And also asking for a live chat question very consistently. And CK Bold's question is going to go to Jeff Lieberman, who says, did we get any more news about Putin having a heart attack?
And I would say, let's see here. Not really. I was trying to think about that. Not really. We kind of actually discredited that story here on this channel because we've heard that so many times on so many different people like Shoigu, Kadyrov, and they all have ended up living, or it didn't even happen to them, to the point that we just kind of, we just kind of say, yeah, whatever. It probably didn't happen to him. Unless if he dies. That's really the only point that will make big news about it, is if he actually dies. Because beyond this point, it seems like everyone in Russia has massive health issues, according to the news out there. And so with that, thank you once again for support.
Now, one thing that did happen is a little bit sketchy, which may not discredit the story completely, is when Peskov, the Russian spokesperson, was asked this morning about that alleged story. He had no comment and refused to comment whatsoever on it, which made me think that maybe there might be more to the story, because if he didn't have a heart attack, they would simply write it off as Western propaganda. But at the same time, the Russians love to lie, so why wouldn't they simply say, no, that's not true at all, he's totally fine. So, take it for what you will. You really can't deduce anything from the Russians because they lie so badly, but I wouldn't write the story off completely.
Well, we won't write it off entirely, but I have a feeling in the back of my mind it's probably untrue. But then again, I could start turning into one of those smug OSINT people. I don't want to say smug OSINT people. Might turn into the smug folks who kind of wander around in this area and go, I don't think it happened on everything. And then they always get proven wrong because, that's just how it is. Not throwing any smoke or anything, but for everyone to always act like they're so high and mighty and intelligent, usually in the war reporting community, why does everyone get so much wrong so many times? Like, for example, just to throw this out there, we said, look, U.S. bases were attacked. Everyone goes, BS, look, they're clickbaiting. That didn't happen. And then the next day, it comes out officially, the U.S. says, oh yeah, they've been attacked. And then they all go, look, we've been attacked, but it's no big deal. No big deal. And then they say, then we say, there are probably U.S. wounded. We need to respond to this. No one was wounded, you idiots. I wouldn't respond to it ever. And then today it comes out that people were wounded. And it's like, I just wish for a moment that some people would just, stop trying to act like we're wrong and everything because we're 20 years old and get their heads out of their asses and just actually use logic and deductive reasoning for their news reporting rather than just reading, because everyone can read. I mean, what's the point of running a YouTube channel if you just read what's getting put out? I mean, you can find the video and picture evidence like we do. You can infer logical assumptions, not wild or absolutely asinine assumptions, but ones that are logical. I have a feeling that would actually help out a lot in the reporting that goes on. But, that's just me. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And Benjamin said, shut up for the news, but only getting salt again. I gotta tell you, man, I gotta dish out a little bit of salt every night. We gotta make sure that this is a salty dish here and there because, we always go and do this and we try not to talk about it much and we make sure to cut it out entirely during the news segment. But the sheer amount of disrespect that we get just because of our age doing this and covering it when we've been right a decent amount of the time, and then people always try and discredit what we do and what we say. Not that I care what they say, but it's always just so annoying to know that there's like an active group of people who always act like we're wrong on everything just because we're in our 20s and, you know, they're in their 30s, and so they have to feel like they have a one-up on us somewhere, somehow, and then they still end up being wrong, and then people still believe them anyways. You know, it's like, I don't really get it, and that's why we always dish out a little bit of salt. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Justice Ryan, who throws in a very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, Justice Ryan, for that support and helping to keep us running. And he says, are the Israeli special forces in the tunnels? No taking out Hamas in the tunnels and rescuing hopefully all the captives. And will the invasion be delayed until the U.S. troops are in position? And again, sorry about our LSA member passing on.
And I thank you so much for the support, Justice Ryan, and also honoring the now passed CME for PC. Very unfortunate to know that he did pass away. And to try and answer your questions, and I gotta say, it's very tough navigating this question segment tonight, because on the one hand, I want to make sure to keep things a little bit more demure, so that way we can, of course, make sure to honor CME for PC's passing, but also a lot of y'all have questions as well, so it's really hard to try and balance the two. So I'm trying my best, y'all. Just want y'all to keep that in mind, just in case if I sound hyper in some segments and excited. I'm trying to make sure that we keep things running normal, but also pay respects to CME. But to answer your questions, from what we understand, the Israeli Special Forces have already been active in the Gaza Strip and have saved several hundred hostages through force of arms. Some of them are still being held hostage, however. We do not know, however, if the IDF was ever able to get into the tunnels. That's one thing we really don't know. So can't really answer that one off the top of my head. But we can also say that U.S. forces are building up in the region in response to what's going on. So I hope that answers that fairly well, Justice Ryan. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, this channel wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And once again, rest in peace to CME4PC. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Butchie the Blacksmith, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Butchie, very much for that support. And they said for the pizza and the coffee fund, and if the dogs need treats or ear defenders for when the bagpipes come out, really appreciate what you guys do and having my morning coffee listening to real news. And
Soyu! Это non professional. Soyu! Gerasimov! Это non professional.
Hey, look out the window of the plane, Bliat. You see that the missile outside? Oh, you're cooking it up good today, aren't you?
And also, to address the super chat from Butchie the Blacksmith, not Butchie 777 anymore, he's Butchie the Blacksmith. I gotta thank you for the pizza and the coffee fund. I actually ran out busy 2 days ago, and I've been drinking normal coffee, and it doesn't do me that well. It doesn't do me as well as the busy cold brew did, because, you know, there's a lot less caffeine. And also, we will make sure to get the dog's ear defenders when the bagpipes come out. I'm actually going to tell you something, Butchie, that's going to blow your mind. Mr. Corgi loves the bagpipes. Matthew can attest to that, because back before we moved to Birmingham, I used to play the bagpipes a lot because we lived in the country, so I wasn't really bothering anyone. And when I play them, Mr. Corgi would actually come and sit right under the bagpipes while they were playing. I have no idea why, because his ears are really sensitive, but he loved the sound of the bagpipes. Sheba, on the other hand, hates the bagpipes and is very scared of them. But Mr. Corgi absolutely loves them. So I don't think he needs an ear defender. I think Sheba will, though, and we will get some for her. And also, thank you so much for appreciating what we've been doing. And also, it's great to know that you use the show as the morning show. For a lot of people in America, this is like the nightly show. For folks in Europe, this is the very early morning show, way before the most morning shows even come on. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Butchie. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Syams yet again. And he says, for international viewers, did you know the state motto of Alabama is where family grows closer? This is just another reason why Oklahoma is the best state.
That is not the motto of the state of Alabama, Syams.
That ain't it.
That ain't it. But families do get closer in more ways than one in Alabama, I will admit. But hey, on the bright side, at least our rates of isn't as high as New York and Pennsylvania. Well, actually Washington. Apparently, New York and Washington are the capitals of families getting a little too close. But still, let me pull up the motto of Alabama. What is the motto of Alabama? What is it really? Um, let's see. The motto of Alabama is "We dare defend our rights." So pretty interesting little motto right there. Hope that does actually
Say it
put that-
right, though.
We defend our
We
rights.
dare defend our rights. I'm telling you.
We defend our rights. You know, it's not rights, it's rats nearly. You know, it's like we defend our rights, damn it. But still, thank you so
Don't
much.
tread on me.
Don't tread on me. Don't you damn step your nasty feet all over me. But anyways, thank you so much once again for the support, Sabs, and helping this chat they keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to have jokes about Alabama. And of course, let me say this real quick. We trash on a lot of things in the United States, but one thing I gotta say is that America is a great place. Every state is unique and special in its own way and brings its own stuff to the table. Every single one of them is pretty good. But I think it's just kind of American to gripe about stuff. I think it's really just the human nature to gripe about stuff. Because I've never seen a place in the world where people don't complain about something. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, PsyOps, and helping this channel to keep on running and putting out our state motto where we defend our rights. Because we love our rights, damn it. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $5 super chat from Susan Reichel, who says, "Thank you guys for the excellent coverage, and take one from the chatterbox, please, and LSA forever."
And we will make sure to take one from the chat. And thank you so much once again for the support, Susan Reichel, and helping this channel to keep on running. And long live the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And this live chat question goes to Plexus Gaming, who says, "What do you think it'll take before the U.S. has had enough and starts actually fighting back in the Middle East?"
I think we're probably already on that path right now. We're just waiting for the forces to build up, and then we'll probably respond. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much once again, Reichel, for supporting that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Quantum Fighter, who puts in a 5 and says, "The stars have lined up once again. That my pauper self is finally able to pitch in and find what I can to fund you to, and all you do. And thanks for all of it. And live chat question, please."
Oh, shucks. You don't have to support us like that. Take care of yourself first. That's one thing I'm big into when running this channel, is that if you always, if you have to, like, if you have to, like, save up to support us, don't. Always make sure to take care of yourself. Treat yourself to a nice meal, or you know, maybe something else that you like. Because I gotta tell you, I thank you so much for the support. But whenever people say that, I always cringe because I'm like, man, you know, y'all are putting yourselves under us, and I don't like that idea at all. I'd rather y'all put yourselves over supporting this channel for sure. But I do thank you so much for the support. Of course, your support helps the channel to keep running, and we are still greatly appreciative of it. Don't get me wrong at all. And of course, every bit of support helps, but always make sure to take care of yourselves first. I'd hate to know that y'all put yourselves in bad sorts sometimes because y'all love the channel and want to support us instead. But still, thank you so much once again, and I hope that does address that fairly well, Quantum Fighter. But thank you so much once again, and we will make sure to get a live chat question.
And the live chat question right here is actually going to go to Quantum Fighter himself. He says, "Did the tunnels go into the Israeli sewer system or something? LOL, and love the Corgi story."
And thank you so much for loving the Corgi story. And to answer that question, from what we understand, the tunnels don't really go into the Israeli sewer system. They just kind of wander around inside of Gaza. It's kind of their equivalent of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, but instead of it being the Ho Chi Minh Trail, I don't really know whose trail it is. It's just the trail. But I hope that does answer that fairly well, because I don't think they go into the Israeli sewers, from what I understand. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for sponsoring your own live chat, Quantum Fighter. Good question, by the way. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Yuka Gauss, who puts in a $3 donation and says, "Thank you for your work."
And thank you so much for enjoying our work and finding it worthwhile to support it and help it to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you who went out of their way to support this channel, we wouldn't be able to keep it running. This channel runs entirely off of the support of viewers like you. And we run no ads, we run no sponsors. We have demonetized this channel as much as we can and still make sure that it's a job. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to be possible. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here right now while I'm slurring my speech because I'm so tired. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Wapalong, who puts in a 2 and says, did you know that Arabs and Jews are both Semitics?
I did. We actually got told that about 5 days ago, and I learned that for the first time then, which was really interesting to me because I had no idea that that was actually a thing. I thought the Semitic group was specific to the Jews, but apparently it is also Arabs and Aramaic people as well. And so with that, hope that does address that well, and thank you once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we also have a 10 Canadian from Hunter Stevens who says, thanks for covering other conflicts and not just the Russo-Ukrainian war. It's nice to have a good source to watch and question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support, Hunter Stevens, and helping the channel to keep on running. And I'm glad that you're one of the folks that do enjoy it, because we've actually gotten a lot of praise, and we've also gotten a lot of flack for the changes we've made in covering other things rather than just Ukraine. And I would like to remind everyone, you know, and when I say this, we're not trying to distance ourselves from Ukraine, because some people are taking it as that. This channel was not supposed to be an entirely Ukraine war channel from the get-go. It was supposed to be a world news channel where we cover things of breaking news or importance around the world that would interest all of y'all. You know, that's something that we've never really been able to do up until now, because the Israeli conflict is such a large one. It necessitated that we started covering it. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying that and appreciating that we are covering it, because I feel like a lot of people aren't giving this war due credit. And also, I've seen a lot of people, you know, just say rude things. Like, funnily enough, we actually did have to ban a channel legend like not too long ago, because they just got violent in the live chat and just started cussing us out for running the Israel war news and also our take on it, you know, and just that they didn't want to hear it and they wanted to make that our problem. And they have been around forever, and they know that this channel was supposed to never always just be a one-topic channel. It was always supposed to span out into doing multiple things, but of course keeping Ukraine as the focal point until the war ended. And so they ended up getting banned, and then they ended up coming with an alternate account back onto the channel, into the comment section, and then saying that they had been banned and they had been displeased because of that. I actually responded to him and told them, you know, because Matthew knows who this is, Matthew. It's a certain person that had jams in their name. They had been in the chat for like 5 to 10 minutes just going irate against us, against viewers. And, you know, and while you can be around forever, we were not at all into the concept of treating people rudely and getting away with it, especially when you've been around for such a long time, you know how the channel works and how we deal with folks. That was something to me that was kind of a little annoying, you know, because it's like, you know, everyone knows we've tried to span out to other things. Hell, we made a video on government cheese in the United States. That's how much we've tried to span out before. So obviously it's inevitable. We're going to try and cover other things. And so that was something that was just really weird to me. But anyways, with that, I thank you so much once again for enjoying it, Hunter Stevens, and supporting the channel and helping us to keep this thing rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we have a 2 from Wapalong once again, who says, in ancient times they shared a language.
And also, that is true. A lot of places actually used to share very common languages. Like, you know, of course, pretty much everyone in Europe shared the Latin language for a good bit, except for the Germans. They, of course, had Germanic. And then over time, all that started to disappear. Now we got many different languages, much like there is in the Arabian Peninsula as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, we're moving into our live chat questions. We have the Morse code decoders of the stream. Tonight it was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Tightlines LSO, Kevin J, and Rumpelstiltskin. And they said this evening's Morse code message says the LSA will never yield to any crooks or any tough guys anywhere. Long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And you all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. The Lee Spring Army will not bow to thugs anywhere around the world. Terrorists in Israel, Russian terrorists in Ukraine, the Chinese trying to strong-arm the Taiwanese. We're not going to bow to anyone around the world. We're not going to bow to anyone on YouTube either, just because they want to continue to run their mouths. It will not happen. And so with that, thank you so much once again to all of y'all, the entire shopping list, for deciphering that Morse code message, because y'all been doing that for 608 days straight. And so with that, I also have to thank Junebug for the $1.49 super chat that just threw in. Thank you so much. And also throwing in a slice of cake with that. That is exactly enough to probably get a small slice of cake. And with that, due to time constraints and also due to exhaustion, we're going to answer 3 live chat questions, and then we're going to round out tonight's stream. And so with that, we are on to the first one.
And the first one goes to Cliff West, who says, what do you think is better for ground support, a 30mm like on the BMP-2 or twin 23mm AA gun?
I would say that for ground support, the 23mm Gush gun is probably honestly better because the rate of fire that can put down is astounding. And not only that, the amount of lead that it's able to send down range may actually be a little bit greater in mass than the BMP could do in a single span of time. So I'd actually say the Gush gun is probably better. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And also I see a lot of people, Matthew, saying, what happened to a specific viewer that used to be here a good bit? Well, to really just very quickly cover that. Apparently, they drank the Kool-Aid that was spread by someone else about us that is markedly untrue, and so they are, of course, getting, not getting, they have been just completely going mental. So that's why they're not here anymore. That's where they went, just in case you're wondering. And also the stuff they say is just absolutely nasty. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with them, but something is. But with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
This one goes to Claudio Rodriguez, who says, hello from Sines, Portugal. And do you think that the lack of retaliation against Iran is because the American government has information that Iran has nuclear weapons?
Can you reread that one again?
Do you think that the lack of retaliation against Iran is because the American government has information that Iran has nuclear weapons?
I don't think so, because we are building up forces in the area and moving more equipment in. I don't think it's because of that, and I'm not really sure if we even know or not know if they have a nuke or not. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person to put in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is 420, who says, with 3 carrier strike groups in the area and China sending a flotilla, will the situation escalate into an economic war, or will the situation become kinetic between the 2 world powers?
I have a feeling that it's most likely going to turn into an economic war first, because everyone always tries more peaceful means before going into all-out war, and then if that doesn't work, then we may see an all-out war. So the actual situation with China and the United States will probably take a much longer time to escalate beyond the regional war itself with Iran and Israel. That will probably start to kick off here in the next few weeks based on what we're seeing. But with China and the United States, that might take a lot longer, probably months or maybe even a year or two. And so will that. I hope that does address that fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I have to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure running this stream for all 6.6 thousand of y'all that were here tonight, and of course the 30,000 of y'all that have watched before the stream ended. We are always honored to cover the news for each and every single one of y'all, and if y'all have enjoyed, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, because this channel puts out daily war news summaries, both on Ukraine and in the Middle East, 6 days a week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time every single night except for Mondays. We also put out short war summaries as well, although those have not been coming out frequently. Those should start to come out again here in the near future. And so with that, good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, Slava Ukraini, God bless Israel, God bless the United States, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, folks. We'll see you all tomorrow. Get some rest. Slava Ukraine, and also Slava Israel.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.